Hello, everyone. When we think of doom and gloom, that's what the majority of the sheep do. We don't want to be those. We want to be like figuring out, okay, what's the next step? Where am I positioning? What markets am I looking at in real estate? What am I reading?
Running a small business is not ever said to be easy, but if you find something that excites you, that you can dive in and get your hands dirty, I think there's so many opportunities coming.
When I set my mind on a goal, that's the thing.
This is for you if you're doing all the right things and you still feel stuck. If you're exhausted from picking up extra shifts, if your tax bill keeps rising despite your planning, if you're wondering why your financial advisor or your CPA never mentioned us, I'll show you what finally shifted for us. Just one strategic move that changed everything for our financial future.
One of the keys to my success has been having lenders that are willing to get scrappy, having lenders that are willing to find that are brokers. They aren't just working for one bank. They can shop multiple banks, right? That's one of the keys to my success. Lenders that are willing to go to their underwriters and talk about what I need for co-living, what I need to get.
So don't sleep on the community, because listen, the unexpected will show up. But if you've got the right people in your corner, people to answer questions, share referrals, spot red flags before you sign the dotted line, that's when things shift.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. That was a heck of an intro. I have some editors in the Philippines, and they've been working with me for many years, and so they always put together a nice little intro. Well, thank you for joining us on the Real Estate and Business Expo. We have a fun, action-packed day for you. Of course, this is our second Real Estate and Business Expo, and our co-host is Michael Zuber, One Rental at a Time. If you don't know his YouTube channel, you got to check it out. I'm on there each and every week, along with like 18 other pros, millionaires, successful real estate investors. It's a great show. Michael, built his background. He worked in tech sales, right? And he wanted to figure out how to get out of sales, out of the W-2 world. He wasn't really entrepreneurial, and he did what his book says, one rental at a time. And then he started compounding and refinancing, buying more, getting rid of the duds, buying more. It enabled him to retire from real estate at the age of 45. He's slightly older now, but he was like, what do I do? What do I do now that I'm retired? And hence he's like, I'm going to write a book called One Rental at a Time. And it's become a movement. And we just attended his third annual event here in Las Vegas. And he's got a wonderful community of action takers. And many of the people that watch our show are now looking to kind of fast track the one rental at a time, because they know they need a plan B, especially with AI and all the disruptions. And so that leads us to, today's agenda, which is going to be a great agenda. Our first guest today is actually my coach, amongst other. He coaches many people, but he's got a fascinating background. So we have Coach Phil, who's going to kick it off in a little bit here. And then after that, we have a great session, Anderson Advisors, and they're going to deep dive on what we should be doing to legally eliminate our taxes as much as we can, because that's a big topic. Every year I talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and a lot of the problem sometimes is they don't know all the advantages of owning businesses and owning real estate. And we have a great presentation on AI and vending, unintended retail, which is one of the best business models. Michael and I always talk about it. We coin it as a gateway business because it's a great business that you can run as you're transitioning or building a transition plan out of the W-2, gives you tax advantages, semi-absentee business, but I'm not going to get into the meat and potatoes right now. Then we've got, towards the end of the day, we have Russ, and he does the franchise development for the only 100% commercially focused commercial painting franchise, and it's a subcontractor model, and you guys will be very interested in that business model. It's one of my favorites I look at. So without further ado, let me introduce Michael Zuber and say some kind words to everybody. And
first and foremost, Beau, this, credits to you and Bill and the entire team that puts it together. This was a vision you and I had when our wives and us were out to dinner, and it seems like 6 months ago, and this is the second time we've done it, so kudos to you. What I would tell folks is all the millionaires that I speak with each and every week, there's really one key, and that is to own assets. Now, for me, that meant real estate, but maybe for you, that means small businesses. Maybe that means owning small businesses or vending as a gateway drug to get into a small business. So again, there's lots of things there. One of the most important things I got from a friend, Pace Morby, was know thyself. You got to understand what makes you tick, what motivates you and doesn't, because we're all unique human beings. And that's why I'm excited for our first conversation with Coach Phil. Because again, if you don't have your mind right and you're not really headed in the right direction, you can get lost very easily. It feels very dark. And Phil's been known to turn the light on for lots of people. I look forward to that session kicking off the day. It was a very strategic move on your part, putting Coach Phil first. So yeah, I'm just excited. We got a lot to get through, and we got lots of things to talk about. So thanks for the opportunity again.
all right, so I'm going to do a quick introduction. About 3 years ago, I was talking to a friend. I'm in a mastermind group called Go Abundant, and there's about 900 guys, and most of them are very, very successful. And I was telling my buddy, I said, hey, I need a coach. I said, I've never really had a coach. I feel like I want to take it to the next level. And fortunate enough for me, I got introduced to Phil. And I remember we did our first call together. And I was like, yeah, I want to work with Phil. And I hope he wants to work with me. And it's been, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years. It's all a blur. It goes fast. But, Phil's got a very interesting background and how he became who he is. And he's worked with, pro NFL teams, musicians, big name musicians, you name it, he's worked with them. Now, he's more passionate than ever. And I always tell people about Phil, and I say, Phil loves what he does, and he'll never stop doing what he does. And I think that's very important, because you need to have that passion. He loves helping people. He could do, he doesn't have to coach one-on-one if he didn't want to. He loves it. And my business personally has just, blown up essentially. And it's just, I look forward to meeting this guy every Monday, typically at 9 a.m. And we really attack the day. And I get pumped up after meeting with Phil. And I can't even describe our sessions, but it's just been a really game changer. So I figured today we're talking about real estate. We're talking about business ownership. To me, the first most important piece of real estate that you invest in is the real estate between your ears, right? Because most people that become successful, they don't put their jeans or their pants on any different than most of us, right? They just stay the course. They stay disciplined, and they stay motivated to get results. Because let's face it, most of us are not going to be one-hit wonders and blow up overnight. We're going to have to stack and stack and stack. And so that's what really made me passionate about with originally I had a real estate background. For you guys that don't know me, I should give you a little bit. Real estate lending, into hard money lending, into real estate flipping, into buying rental properties. And then I really found my calling when I got into SBA financing, because I used to finance tons. I still do finance business acquisitions, startups, franchise startups, business opportunities. And that's kind of what really got me excited about the expo, because the expo to me it's not about, is real estate better than, an operating business? We should do them all together. And I kind of coined this, I call it the triangle method. And we have Anderson Advisors on later. We all need to understand tax strategy, right? Because if you're making good money, you want to keep as much as you can. We all should own an operating business in the beginning, because that's going to give you the cash flow to invest, right, into real estate. So there's no right or wrong way. But I think what Zuber and I do is we try to motivate people to take action. And so Phil has worked with many, many people, and I believe we all need a coach. We all need a mentor. Whether you're joining Michael has a school community for real estate people, right? And if you want to join there, whatever it is for you, if you can find a great coach like I found Phil. But today's topic to start the whole event here is really the real estate between your ears, because once you can unlock that and take action and stay focused and look at this as a long-term game, not a one-hit wonder, not an overnight success, and you can stay the course time in, time out, then you will be successful ultimately. There's no way you won't be. What I see most is people are scared to break out of the golden handcuffs. So that's really what the topic is with Zuber and Phil right now is let's talk about the real estate between our ears. Let's talk about how, if people are out there right now, whether they own businesses right now, whether they own real estate right now, how do they really keep going forward and make more impact to create more legacy, right? Because we're all here not to become billionaires. We're all here to create a legacy of some sort. And I think that's important too, because we don't know. Phil always tells me, Beau, we don't know how high your upside potential is, right? And that's true. All of us on this webinar today, we don't know our highest and best potential, where we can go and what you want to do. Some people are fine being the fisherman in the boat, right? And that's their lifestyle, and that's perfectly fine. But whatever you want to do, you can do. And that's why I work with Phil, because Phil's really helped me with the mindset. And without further ado, Phil, thank you for joining us. Say hello to everybody.
Well, thanks for that more than generous welcome. And it's really to be in this experience. This is my first experience at the Expo, and my first experience with Beau in the public setting, and my first experience with Michael Zuber, that someone I've admired from a distance. Bill Davis, Bill, what you've meant to Beau as a teammate in the process of evolution for everybody in your system. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that. Everybody out there, look, this is a moment in time where you have a choice to use an experience conventionally or unconventionally. Let me throw this out at you, okay? Most of us in this kind of experience are sitting back at home and taking some notes, and we'll jot a few things down, and then we'll go forward. And most of us will lose most of the experience going forward because we won't pay attention to beyond this time. We'll get back in the weeds with what we've been doing, and we will wind up in the same place on Monday morning. Okay, so I'm asking you to consider that to make this experience what you need to make it, if you're really here because you care, that it will not be something you've done in a rote and mechanical way. It helps me right now, if you start, is there a way, Beau, for us to have questions, Q&A? People are sending questions, stuff.
Yeah, they can put it right in the Q&A section, and they can.
So start asking the questions instead. Let's have a dialogue as much as we can, okay? An interactional dialogue as much as we can. And ask me some questions, and ask the panel here questions that have to do with what's between our ears. That's, by the way, that's Beau Eckstein. I love it. The real estate between your ears. Nice job, Beau. I don't know if you stole that from somebody or what, but that's a book out there, okay? Because the place for us to start always in any given moment, every moment is a choice. Every moment is a decision. So when we're in this moment of time, we interpret the reality. Reality doesn't define us. We interpret it. And we do not spend time thinking about our responsibility to each moment of time. I guarantee we don't. We get swept away by the externals and distracted by everything that's going on around us. And our own answers lie inside of us, and that's what we have the responsibility. That's what it means to be operating and managing the real estate between your ears. Beau, Michael, I don't know, Rick and Jeff, you're here, and it's nice to see you guys. I've never met you either. So if we all put ourselves in the place right now of wondering what it's like to be somebody who's sitting at home on, in this webinar because they've chosen to spend the time with us, we have some responsibility to them. They have responsibility to themselves, and they have a responsibility to us as well. So I'm going to start out with a question. When you've been at a webinar, can you remember back in the day when you first decided to make a change for you? What was your mentality then? And what are some of the things that our guests on the webinar today are likely to be thinking about? But in you and Beau and others in this panel here, and you and others here, putting yourselves back in that position of being a webinar guest, what what's going through their minds?
I think there's a couple of things. Good news for you, Coach, is I got lots of questions for you too, but I like how you
Great,
turned the
super.
table on us. So that's awesome. The thing that I would tell you, attending a webinar, especially a free webinar like this, that's going to consume time, is I was either afraid of something, like I was fearful of something, and there's plenty of things to be afraid of today, whether you're a white collar worker in AI, or maybe you're in the real estate business, and this war with Iran has caused interest rates to go up and you don't know what's going on in your business. So fear can be an excellent motivator, but there's also the fear or the thing of pleasure, right? I want to change my life. I want to be better at something. And as a webinar guest, you're likely here for one of those reasons. I personally am driven a lot more by fear. Like, I'm afraid of this, so I want to go, take extreme ownership, and I don't want to blame anybody else. I'm gonna own everything in my life, which is why I'm so freaking disciplined. But again, there's probably some people out there that are also like, hey, I'm gonna be a millionaire or worth 10 million bucks, and right there's this thought of some better future. I don't know why you chose to be here with us for potentially 3.5 hours, but I'm gonna guess it's one of those two things. You're either afraid, or you see some great future ahead, and you're looking to get kickstarted. That would be my reasons for way back when.
Oh, your thought? Thanks, Michael.
I think I still join webinars as guests all the time because I want to pick up information. I want to pick up information that I don't know, and I want to implement, right? And so I think the big difference is, will you take action or will you not take action? Are you just attending presentations and never taking action? And I think it's really, when I watched Michael, I think I told you about this, Phil. Michael said, he sets one goal. I forgot what you call it, a Musagi, or Jesse Outzler calls it that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when this dude in his 50s said, I'm going to go from 34% body fat to under 10% body fat in a year, and he did it, right? I mean, he was 10.5. I'm going to say he did it. That kind of stuff really inspires me. And I don't say, well, I couldn't do that, right? I look at him and I say, if Michael can do it, I sure as heck can do it. What's the difference between Michael and me? It's the fact that he will do what it takes when he sets his mind to something. So for people that are out there right now, what is it that you want, and how can you work at that on a daily basis? Because if you work out on a daily basis, you will in fact reach your goal, right? So those kind of things. So when people are joining a webinar like this and they're like, well, I don't know who Beau is. I don't know who Phil is. I don't know who Zuber is, right? Well, the one thing is that if you go ahead and Google us and watch us on YouTube and figure out who we are, if you don't know who we are. But what I can tell you is we show up with intention every single freaking day. So I would encourage you right now to really get focused on today's event, really get focused on just learning the different topics, looking at the business models, whether a vending business is the right fit or not, understanding the opportunities, and then saying, you know what, I'm going to go laser focused on this opportunity, and then figuring out to get into the right rooms, right? And then you've got to continue the motivation. Like when I meet with Phil every Monday, that keeps me fired up. So whatever your Phil is out there, find it and stick with it, I guess.
Wow. Okay, so Rick, what are you thinking?
Phil, I appreciate the time. I had the pleasure of hosting a lot of different webinars over the course of my career, and, switching roles there and trying to visualize why I would attend a webinar, something like we're having today. It's all about knowledge, putting yourself in rooms and giving yourself the opportunity to learn. I've always been an advocate of getting into rooms that folks that are smarter than me, and I think a lot of folks that might be on this call today are hoping to gain, even if it's one thing, to walk away with. So that's what it was for me.
Thanks, Rick. Jeff?
Yeah, I think, my thoughts were kind of similar to Rick. I think people are taking the step, and that's really the most important thing, right? There are a lot of people out there that they want to do something different in their life, but they're not taking any action at all. So deciding you're going to take some kind of an action is the first step, but then you've got to figure out what's that step going to be. And I think my hat's off to, Beau and Michael for putting something like this together, because a lot of people, they say, hey, I'm going to do something different, but they have no idea where to go. And so this is a great stop for them and a great agenda for somebody who's made that decision to move forward with something.
We're getting a taste of different perspectives here, which I really appreciate. Bill, what are your thoughts?
So all of us, all of you are smarter than you think. And that's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you probably, at no point in human history have we had access to more information, more knowledge, more case studies, more this is how you do it. So the blueprints are all out there. The signs are there. But the curse is we all think we need that one next thing, that's going to make us, cross over, tip that teeter-totter. And think of this webinar as that one thing. You need to move from consumerism to production. You need to become the producer. You need to start building things. Don't just consume things. What you're doing right now is consuming. Take that consumption, assimilate it into something that you can build, and then go out and build it.
Damn, there's a lot of smart here. I really like that. Jeff is on the screen, but I don't know. Jeff,
he's doing our next session. He just got in early.
So Jeff's warming up. Jeff, do you want to say anything?
He's probably not there. He might have just
his pretty face is.
Yeah.
I want to borrow that face.
He's an attorney by trade, so he's no offense to attorneys.
No offense to any attorneys out there. Okay, look, we got a nice start here when we're talking about the mental side of performance, or the what's between the ears. And to borrow a little bit from each of you here, one of the things that had struck me when Michael's talking about it, and I would challenge him a little bit about it, would have some fun with him. I think Michael is correct that we as human beings are driven by fear. And the way I would put it, driven by fear way more than we ought to, because fear driving us is accompanied by side effects. And I would challenge Zuber. I don't know him, but I do know he's been very successful. He may say that fear has been the driver for him, but the discipline that when he's disciplined and when he's doing what he's doing to get to where he wants to go, in that moment, he's not checking with fear. He's defying fear, if anything. Correct. But so discipline and willpower is this a universal is this a human possibility for all of us? Yes. But why are we not as disciplined as we could be? Okay, here's a theory, and I don't want you to get lost in it, but I want you to think about it. The first 9 months of life, we're in the womb where everything is taken care of. I like to say room, board, tuition, everything is taken care of for us, right? That's the precursor to everything else that goes on. Then we step out into the world, and it's entirely different ballgame. We have to navigate and negotiate. We have to figure out how to proceed from there. And we are shaped, of course, our degree of discipline, willpower, our degree of commitment to our degree of passion, our degree of how we operate is shaped by childhood patterns. We don't have time to go into that, but every one of us here, if we want to, can trace back to our childhood experiences how we started life and how we've continued to reinforce life in a certain way, oftentimes in competition with what's best for us. So those of us sitting here in front of this, in this webinar experience now, take a look at habits that we have that work against what we say we're here to do. Take an honest assessment with whether our commitment to change and grow. And don't you love the curiosity that comes from these guys? They're talking about, they want to go, like Rick was talking about, he likes going into a place where he's with smarter people. He puts himself in a place where he's curious enough to discover things that he doesn't know. Most of us play the womb. And what we do there is we want to put ourselves in a situation where we reinforce what we already know. Isn't that comfortable? We're having conversation with somebody. We want to steer the conversation toward what we want it to be steered, what we want, what we're comfortable with. Comfort is the friggin' enemy. If we're here and we say we want to grow and change and evolve ourselves, we have committed. I don't care whether it's free or not. Okay, someone would argue, say, well, you're paying money, then it's a greater investment. If you're here and you're investing in this time, then promise yourself right now that you are going to look at how you can differently check your pattern when you get up in the morning and what you do. And if it's routine and comfortable, then take a look at that and say, at this particular moment, that's not going to work for me. recycling the same thing is not why you're here. Recycling the same thing continues to perpetuate the artificial sense that we're comfortable. And then we get uncomfortable inside ourselves and we wonder why. Because our human personality was not meant to be static. It was not meant to be the same. It was meant to continually evolve, like Beau Eckstein does, and like he says, in how he works our sessions. It is not. We do not begin a session and wind up in the same place where we began. That's not okay. So, any thoughts? Anybody on the panel? Any thoughts for me, or any questions, or anything from the audience?
One of the things, Coach Phil, that I wanted to come with, because I think people, again, on the other side of the camera need to understand what this means. When you talk about altering your personal landscape and swift personal intervention, what does that really mean for an average person? How do you alter your personal landscape, and what does that all mean?
Well, Michael, and I'm not deflecting this without purpose. Okay, I'm not. I like the way you framed that. And the question, see, when someone like, okay, Michael asked a legitimate question. For me, what's really interesting, the curious part of me, is I feel, first of all, I feel like he has an idea there for himself. And if I tell him something, then I waste his time. If he evolves in this discussion and answers his own question, he's going to come up with something that's richer for him to take away. I will contribute to what Michael says. I'm not dodging it. But Michael, that's the way you frame that question with the curiosity. It sounds like you've thought that through. What's your
I mean, I spent a lot of time making sure I was prepared for this session, and that was something that jumped out at me because, again, I talk to lots of people. You know, as Beau talked about, I have a show that does 21 videos a week. 18 of those are other millionaires or people that you would call quote unquote successful.
Yes.
And then, you know, I help thousands of people that are just starting their journey. And it's really eye-opening to me that of all the quote unquote successful people I speak with, AKA millionaires and many times multimillionaires, they all have sad stories. Like we all have baggage from our childhood or early adult life. Like, nobody I know is born with a silver spoon in their mouth. And most of them, you know, were born dirt poor, frankly, and in some horrible situations. But when I talk to other people that are just beginning their journey, they just can't get rid of the sad story.
Yes.
I'm like, at what point do we just say we all had sad stories, buck up, buttercup, and get moving? I mean, how do you tell someone, you know, you're freaking 28 years old, get over yourself and, you know, own the rest of your life? That's really what I thought about when I was kind of saying that phrase over and over again.
Thank you.
That's why I came with.
That's extremely valuable information. I'd love to hear what the rest of you out there are thinking about what Michael said. A simple answer to the question is why we get stuck in this is because we're comfortable being uncomfortable. We're comfortable being able to justify, let's say that our childhood was screwed up or something. Think about this, everybody. Every day of our lives, coming to a moment of decision, every moment of choice. How many times do we offload? How many times do we blame somebody else in a discussion? How many times do we blame our past? How many times do we excuse ourselves because we focus on something that we're comfortable with, which is what Michael's talking about, which is dangerous, seriously dangerous. If we go through life reviewing our past from a place of negativity, then what's the likelihood that we're going to break out of that? We're not. But here's the damaging part of it. We're all friggin' smart enough to be able to justify being stuck.
Amen.
We are all able to say, this is why I am here. So many of us coming to this webinar are trying to break out, okay? By the very presence in this experience and being around these incredible people. At the same time, we will leave this experience going back, like I said before, to the patterns that we're most comfortable with. So what Michael's talking about and what some of the others of us are talking about indirectly is we have to break out of that pattern. So I don't think any of us here on this panel can tell you how to break out of a comfortable pattern.
Hey, Phil, somebody wrote in the Q&A, and I think this is very relevant.
Let's rock it. Go.
How do you stay disciplined? This is very relevant. How do you stay disciplined with your business pursuits when you experience setbacks, challenges along the journey, right? Somebody wrote that anonymously. But the point there is, this is just what we're talking about. Look, I know what Michael Zuber is thinking right now. He's thinking like, so what? You're going to have setbacks. We all have setbacks. Move forward. If you move forward every day, you're going to win. And so the problem is I think personally is that the people get stuck, right? That's a sticking point for them. Whatever their setback was is a sticking point, right? And it seems like they can't move, right? They're stuck. I remember when I used to flip houses, and I partnered with a buddy contractor of mine, and the deal ended up being $70,000 more in repairs for the property. This was back in the day when I lived in California. And I was frozen for a minute because I didn't have the $70,000, right? And I was like, it stressed me out. And I could have easily buried my head in the sand, right? But the reality of it is most setbacks in life you can figure out. And the thing is, when you have a setback, if you just the next day you just continue on your moving forward discipline routine, then you're gonna work past that. And I think people sometimes get stuck, and then they just don't. They bury their head, and then they're like, "Well, I don't know what to do." And it's so simple.
Stuck as an excuse. I'm interrupting, but they use stuck as an excuse, right? Okay. So, and I'm just going to jump this a little bit. Okay. So the stuck, Beau, you're absolutely correct about that. And the setback, there's a purpose in setback. There's a purpose. I have to learn from that setback. So I don't run from the setback. I embrace the setback. I engage the setback. I ask the question, what is it I could have done differently, better? If that's when I'm healthy. When I'm not being healthy, I blame it's the market. It's the circumstances. It wasn't me. The moment I say it wasn't me is the moment I take a step back. Michael,
couldn't agree more. No, I couldn't agree more. Right. One of my favorite books, it's one of the top 3 I talk about all the time, is Extreme Ownership. And I take that to heart. I will never, ever blame somebody else for a setback or a mistake or error or whatever you want to call that, because that gives away the power. I'll never give another human being, a man, a woman, power over me. If something negative happens, it's an opportunity to learn. In fact, if you're going to make any changes or growth in life, you will have setbacks. But you have to reframe that. A setback doesn't have to be negative. It's just a learning point. It's like a video game. Well, I got to learn this new thing, right? And the last thing I'll tell you is I led teams, in software for decades, and we celebrated what we called mistakes, what's called setbacks in this question, because one setback that one person did, like I remember losing a $10 million deal, and it was for a unique reason that nobody had ever uncovered from a competitor before. But you know what? That one loss allowed us to tweak it so we never lost that way again, right? These are all points. The fact that you frame the question as setback, meaning negative, is the wrong frame, right? Growth comes from being uncomfortable. Growth comes from learning. Growth comes from mistakes. And yes, I get it. Some mistakes hurt. That's why we have scars. But again, remember, chicks dig scars. So just keep moving forward.
Excellent point. Beau, you're smiling. What?
I just think that it's a great question that we get all the time is like, hey, how do I get started? How do I have bad credit right now, or whatever the situation might be, and it's really just like the same answer. Like if you can't buy a bit, like let's say you want to buy a vending business and you need an SBA loan and you have bad credit. Okay, well, what do we do today to start getting your credit good, right? Even if it takes you 12 months or 18 months, we'll get you there. You just have to do the daily work. And I think that's like the real secret of everything is just showing up. And it's like, I don't know how to convey that. That's kind of frustrating for me, because I feel like this is a common thing with people. And it's just like, how do you give them a little Zuberness where they can understand what it really takes to do something, which is just that discipline of doing it every day? Because you're going to get better at any sport. Look at the guys that play pro basketball. They go and shoot 10,000 free throws, right? So they can, have a high scoring percentage or whatever you call it. I mean, it now sounds simple to me because I've already realized that, but it's hard to convey the message to people because they haven't experienced it. They have to like work, and get to that tipping point where they finally realize it for themselves. And I don't know how to do that, Phil. I don't know if anybody knows.
Okay, so let me help you stop being frustrated, okay? Because you're taking the responsibility for the people out there, but you're making a really good point, okay? And it is frustrating when you're in this position of leadership like you guys are. You're providing this webinar, and you realize that very few people are going to move forward in the way that you would encourage them to do so. And the people out there are waiting, those people, the people who aren't, the people who are going to remain stuck are going to be disappointed leaving this because there's something magical that didn't happen to them. You didn't provide magic. One of the things we see on the web all the time as we go on, there's some kind of commercial ad promoting something, instant change and everything. And we're so sucked in, are we not? We are so seduced, are we not, into those messages because they're instant relievers. And they try to convince us that if we just do this one simple thing, everything's going to be okay. And then we buy into that. And we find out that doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because it doesn't work. And that's what you guys are saying. What you're asking people out there to do in a webinar that's different from what I've experienced is, generally speaking, what happens is you guys have 3 magical things you're going to share with people. They write them down, they go out and try to do something with them, and they fall on their faces, or it doesn't really work because they're not going to deal with what's required of them. So yeah, okay, everybody out there, discipline, commitment to purpose, challenging yourselves when there's ostensibly a setback, embracing that there's no such thing as a setback when there is no setback when you convert. There are no easy steps to take. The human race would have figured this out. There are no easy steps, everybody. So in this webinar, what are you willing to do out there to challenge the comfortability of your own personalities, to challenge those qualities inside of you that are going to rise up and try to steer you away from what's required?
Another question we have, Phil, thank you for that response. Question to the organizers, what is your own objective for this webinar? What status will make you feel accomplished at the end of the webinar? Great question. Okay. A couple years back, I had a mission, and my mission at first was to help 10,000 aspiring entrepreneurs become successful business owners. That became 100,000, and now it's 1 million people. So I know obviously I can't work one-on-one with 1 million people, right? So I do webinars and events. I've done this webinars and events I've done them since Bill's known me for 14 years. When we lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, I did a lot of real estate events, and now I do a lot of virtual events. So over the last 6 years, I've done a ton of virtual events. And so I can easily accomplish helping 1 million aspiring entrepreneurs become successful business owners because all they have to do, I've had 2 or 3 million views on my YouTube channels, right? So I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing. So obviously I make money because I'm in the SBA business. I help people get into businesses. I make money, but the purpose is educating people, figuring out, is real estate a good vertical for you today? Is owning a business a good vertical today? Or are you just needing to build a transition plan to eventually get out of the W-2? Or are you ready to go forward 100% and get out of the W-2? That's really my objective. That's really why I put these events on. And I asked Zuber because Zuber has a similar, with his ORAC community, he loves seeing people buy one rental at a time and create. His hat right there says Everyday Wealth Builders. He has another hat that says Daily Discipline, right? Because he practices what he preaches. He shows up every day. When it's my time to meet with him on our calls, you better believe it. 5 minutes before, I've got the invite to the meeting, and then I got a text. I'm ready, and I show up on time because I know he's going to be there. So that's why we do what we do, and I think Zuber can answer that in his own way. But that's why I do what I do. I enjoy sharing knowledge. I spent the last 15, 18 years learning about real estate investing, business ownership, SBA loan broker. When I want to learn something, I learn it and then I teach it. And then I become a better teacher. So I wrote a book with the help of Bill called How to Get SBA Financing to Buy Your First Business. Because if you know how SBA can unlock that first acquisition, we're going to talk about vending later today. And you learn like, hey, if I can use SBA financing and I can put a smaller down payment down, I can leverage and buy more machines, which, eventually will get me out of that W-2 job. That's why I'm here on this planet, is to help people enrich their lives by learning and implementing and hopefully eventually creating some sort of legacy, whatever that means for them. And if that means owning a business isn't the right fit, that's fine. At least they were committed to spending time with me, and that's what I always say is important to me. Michael?
Yeah, for me, one of the things I got right after I retired at 45 was I was on a mission to create something that outlived me by 50 years. I believe you die twice, once when your physical body goes, and second, the last time somebody says your name. And, this is just another, brick in that future of creating content, of inspiring others, to hopefully change their lives. I believe in this statement, everyday wealth builders. I believe this is just one of the steps to get there. So I'm going to continue to create, motivate, help, answer questions. I see a question from Anil. I will make sure I'll answer your question in my economics session. I'm not ignoring it, but I'll address it when I speak later today. But yeah, I'm here. I'm just here to help people realize they have more power. They can control their future. They should stop blaming others, right? You're an adult. Own where you are today, but you can change it tomorrow. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
What's happening right in this moment is transformative. Okay, I call it moral prosperity. When I hear, when you listen to Zuber, just like the two different personalities, you listen to Beau's rambunctious personality, and you listen to Michael's more mellow personality. Each of them said in their own way, we're here because we want to help people. Mm-hmm. For those of you who were using this Real Estate Expo as simply a way to generate income, the income will follow the moral prosperity, the investment in helping other people. When you're doing a real estate transaction where you're getting somebody into a home for the first time, what a magnificent experience. When you're doing something for your fellow man, there's passion that's mustered that has to do at the spiritual level. I'm not talking religion, but at the spiritual level, that makes that and multiplies the power of that event and that experience. The satisfaction and fulfillment that, when Beau was introducing me, the satisfaction and fulfillment I get from being around people who are like this in this group that we're here right now, that inspires me. It inspires me to do more for the human race. So that's the piece that is being addressed here. I think that's extremely important to reinforce.
I think another big thing, Phil, that you and I always talk about is we talk about how, and you always point this out to me, and I think this is very important. Phil always points out to me that I've built my foundation, right? He's worked with some, very successful musicians, and he always points out, sometimes people get their success and fame too fast, and they don't know how to handle it. I've always been one that I've learned, take action. And I think once you understand, when you build that foundation of knowledge, then you're ready to go. You can start building on that foundation into the house. And that's the powerful thing about entrepreneurship. The one thing I realized when I was just at Michael's event and many other events that I go to is the people that go to these rooms, they're wired a little bit differently. And I always tell people that aren't in the right environments, a lot of it too is just getting in the right environment. And that's as simple as finding your tribe, right? How do you find a tribe? Because if you're with people that are going in the right direction and you feel energized when you're around those people, that's the right room to be in. And that's the way I live. I want to be energized by other people's energy just as much as mine. So if I can find rooms and masterminds and whatever it is, I stay in those rooms because I'm inspired. And so that's, I think, another takeaway. You might not be in the right environment, whoever watching, right? You're maybe not putting yourself in the right rooms where you're getting that energy. If you get that energy, and I call it the entrepreneur bug, it's going to stick with you because you see, and there's just something how people are wired that are aspiring and are entrepreneurs, whether they own real estate or business, that really fires me up. I don't know if you guys are out there watching this right now, if you've ever been in an environment like that. Why are those rooms so powerful to be in? It's not somebody teaching you how to buy a single family rental property. I mean, sure, you're going to pick up some nuggets. It's really the energy and the connection you have as a human being.
Well said. It's tribal energy. Rick, what are you thinking?
Appreciate it, Phil. So for me, I kind of wanted to call back to what you mentioned earlier. Some of you gentlemen were mentioning something that had my gears moving here. Basically, I know there's a lot. The temperature in the air these days is that real estate is down, jobs are being lost. I kind of want to have a callback to my personal story when the world shut down. The world shut down and I was furloughed from my position at the time, which was recruitment. And I directly, fed America, or at least my town and my state. During that time, I was very fearful, but I was more fearful that I would have a major setback than capitalizing on the moment on the other side of it. So what ended up happening was I ended up taking my livelihood and changing it 100%. I moved across country to a state that I felt was opening up a bit more. And that's what led me to franchising. So I'd advise those folks that are listening today to, it doesn't have to be to that extreme, but there's constantly going to be something in this world that's going to be throwing us a curveball. Are we going to just accept that, or are we going to be the outliers that find a way?
Brilliant. And let's hope that, so if the question still stands, what do we want from you all in the audience? What do we want from the outcome? Rick, I'm with Rick on that for sure. We want you to think creatively. We want you to be able to adjust, not accommodate the reality that exists out there, but transform it. We're all here in this room now to transform a reality that currently exists differently for each of us, transforming it into something better. That's our obligation. Let's make that our commitment. Bill, what are you thinking?
Well, I've always been a teacher. I've had many roles in my life. I'm a parent, I'm a husband, I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked at Fortune 50 companies. Like what a lot of people here have said is I just want to impart whatever knowledge or experience I have onto you so that you can build the life that you want. And one thing that's been said in this webinar is, I've talked to many successful people, and I think Zuber said it, and success is how you define it. It's not, I need to be like Bob across the street. You get to define your success. So once you define your success, you pursue that success. And if you get there, great. If you don't, keep working. But don't compare yourself to the guy next door, the guy online, the guy on Instagram, because honestly, they're probably lying. But just define your own success and go to people who have defined their own success and are accomplishing those things, and learn from them if you can.
Powerful, Davis, powerful. I mean, so it reminds me of what Beau's original thought about managing the real estate between our ears. Our own set of ears, our own set of who, we're the only one. I'm the only Phil Toll on the planet in this form. I have a responsibility to be Phil Toll. Too often it's real easy to be seduced into being what Rick Medina wants me to be like, or something. That's not okay. And I think we've got some individuals here on this panel who have learned the lesson and in various different ways gotten to the place where we're being authentically who we are. Zoobs, you have a wrap-up thought with that?
I think you're absolutely right. Right. You're looking at, some folks who've been through the fire, come out the other side and realized it was worth it. Probably a lot of people watching this are looking for that spark of innovation or idea creation, and want to know that any investment they make or trial that they have or mistake they make is going to be worth it. I mean, I hear that all the time. And that's why I tell people wealth takes 10 years and the first 5 years suck, right? You don't really have time for compounding. You really haven't got any momentum. You make mistakes. It feels like the world's against you. And that's why we bring up 18 millionaires a week to just go, yeah, we've been there. Yeah, we had that. Yeah, it's coming. But it does get better. But I think a lot of people just want to know and are seeking certainty. And that's what we try to provide.
That's, what you just bring up there is extremely powerful. We're in a society of instant relief. Well, it's not even gratification. It's instant relief. And we are looking for quick fixes, aren't we not? And we're looking for quick fixes because we're in pain. So we're looking for relief. Listen to what Michael's saying and what everybody's really directly and indirectly talking about. This is a journey. This is a lifetime journey. This is a lifetime commitment. It is not. I mean, if you're building out a family, you're not going to be a parent for the first 5 years. I thought, you're not good. That's not it, right? You're going to be a parent for the whole go, which is as long as you're taking a breath. So can we learn patience? Can we trust this? Going back to the question about setbacks, can we trust that we're going to engage setbacks because we have put ourselves in a situation of evolution and growth, and anybody that's challenging themselves to get better is going to put themselves into challenges that are bigger and higher than previously. I know we're getting wrapping, up, I guess we're getting down to the end of my portion of it. Anything from the panel, anything that we want to summate going forward? What I will say is I think that those of you in the webinar right now are in position, you understand that you've got a crew here that they care about you. They're not just putting this on for their own benefit. They care about you. Any one of these people on the panel is available to you as a worthwhile and really sensitive and experienced guide and influencer, and they care. So when you're listening to the subject matter today, listen to their passion about what they're trying to communicate to you, and pay attention to the fact that you've been graced to be a part of an experience that's worth your wholesale commitment. And it is not enough for you to leave this crew and go off and wander off into doing something, superficial. So anyway, any thoughts from the rest of you guys?
I think, Phil, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I think people that came here not knowing what to expect, this was a blessing, right? I'm sure at first it might have surprised people, like, oh, like, why do I need to learn about like this, right? But I think if you really look at the whole thing, there's no secret sauce. It's all about learning business models, real estate, whatever it is, taking action, right? And so there's usually no like silver bullet. When you coach these very successful real estate people, you have a lot of real estate people you coach or have coached over the time, right? They don't have any secret pizzazz. It's that they're taking action. And at the end of the day, that's the first step of everything is you showed up, which means you took action. But the message I think we really want to convey to people is continue taking action every single day now, and you will get to where you want to go.
Purposeful action.
Purposeful, right? And then find yourself a Phil, find yourself a Zuber, and right, you can plug into Zuber's channel every single day, and there's 5 different segments. That'll keep you motivated. So Phil, I'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday. Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Zoobs, it's a pleasure to get to know you, man. I really appreciate who you are. Getting to know you, and remind everybody who someone is how they deliver what they deliver. Rick, wise man. I really like that. I like your thorough, and I like the way you approach this moment. I can see how you immerse yourself in it. Davis, you are a teacher. You're Bill Davis. You're still a teacher, man. A beautiful teacher. Beau, thank you, man. I love you. I do. And I'll see you Monday. Everybody, thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. All right, guys, that was great. I get to meet with Phil every single Monday, so it's definitely a blessing. So anyways, find your Phil in life and keep going at it, and you'll grow. That's what I'm doing. So without further ado, if we have Anderson Advisors coming up next, and I think actually, Zuber, I'm going to move you after. I'm going to put Smart Market in front of you because they're great to go right after the tax strategy, strategy and asset protection, because we can dive right into showing them a business model that may be a good tax write-off. So, and then we'll have you go then, and then perfect. That works good. I'll make a mental note of that. Well, without further ado, we have Jeff Cottle with Anderson Advisors, and we're going to do a nice session here, and we're going to learn a lot about tax strategy, asset protection, proper entity structuring, right? Do I want an LLC when I start a business? When I hold real estate, do I want this? Do I want that? Same questions, right? And knowing these simple techniques, if you the advantages of S corps, like how do you do a pass-through entity? Can I write off these vending machines that I'm, buying, even though I'm financing the majority of it? All those things are very important. It's a third of the triangle method is the tax strategy. A lot of people are so fixated on how much money they make on the top line, but really it's on the bottom line that really matters. So Jeff, thank you for joining. Jeff's got a great background. He's an attorney. We're going to kind of dive into the meat and potato. He's got a presentation and we'll do a Q&A. I will say there is a question in the Q&A that says, any advice on starting a business with your wife, separation of duties relative to single families? They're probably buying rental property. So we'll after Jeff's presentation, I think Jeff can add some value on like estate planning and asset planning and setting up family meetings to separate, so you and your wife aren't fighting. Hey, this is our designated time to meet, and I'd be interested in Jeff's feedback on that, but we'll wait till after his presentation and dive into that question. So I did see that, Chip. Thank you for the question. Without further ado, Jeff, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here, Beau, and thank you for having us. Susie, we're really excited to be here, and that was just an outstanding session, by the way. Loved what Phil had to say, and as well, Zuber and you, Beau, I think was outstanding, and I agree with using the word blessing for everybody being on here. I certainly learned a lot as well, so thank you for having us. So what I'm going to talk about today here for everyone is I'm going to discuss our two sort of foundational principles. One is our sort of foundational principle of asset protection, right? How to protect you from lawsuits. And a lot of us think of lawsuits as coming from attorneys or coming from people who have just a little slip and fall. And personal injury attorneys, please don't get me wrong, as a litigator, I absolutely understand that fear and those things come, but lawsuits also come from clients and from business partners and from employees. So we want to make sure we have contingency plans and protection plans in place. And then second, I'll tell you the key principle to tax planning. And you'll see, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the strategies that the hyper wealthy use to keep their taxes down. And I want you to think, ask yourself, how much money are you leaving on the table without proper tax planning? And we'll cover how those strategies, that tax planning that the hyper wealthy use, we'll talk about how they apply to you and your investing in your small business ownership. So we'll cover both of those things today. Before we do that, though, I'll jump in and I'll give a quick introduction to myself as an attorney, my experience, and of course, us here at Anderson Business Advisors. And so here, I'll share my screen really quick as we're going. So I hope you'll forgive me as I do the quick cliche as I pull up my slideshow here. But what we'll talk about today is, as we're getting started, is us here at Anderson Business Advisors, we are very proud of the fact that we are a law firm, but we like to think of ourselves more as an education company, if you will. All of us come from a background of small business ownership and real estate investing. In order to work at Anderson, you have to. So my wife and I, you can see us up here, we are real estate investors ourselves, our founding partners here at Anderson Business Advisors. Some of you may have heard of them, Clint Coons and Toby Mathis. They are both wildly successful real estate investors and have other small businesses that they own as well. And so we come to these ideas of asset protection, estate planning, and tax planning from a world of experience, not just theory. And in fact, we got this started coming at the idea of, well, this world of liability, this world of lawsuits, this world of just candidly far too many attorneys anymore. You should not have to go to law school in order to understand it. And so this is our way of giving back and saying, hey, let's talk about then what you need to do in order to protect yourself and in order to take advantage of the tax code the way that it is. You'll see up here, you'll see that we actually have CPAs and a tax team in-house. Yes, we do prepare tax returns as well. Yes, we have defended our strategies and audits. Yes, we have even gone to tax court and won. We've done all of these things, and so we come at this again from a world of experience. My personal experience comes from, like I said, my wife and I are real estate investors ourselves, and before coming to Anderson, I was actually a litigator. I was the bad guy, if you will. I was the one that took all of these things to the courtroom. I was arguing before judges, making all sorts of complicated filings and motions and things like that. My wife and I did not like the world that took us into. I was good at it, please don't get me wrong. The law firm I was at afforded me the opportunity very early on in my career to go toe-to-toe with name partners and with high-level senior attorneys at other law firms when I was very early on in my career. Taught me a lot. Now I'm able to leverage that as we come and we talk with individuals who are starting their own businesses, who are investing in real estate, who are doing other kinds of investing as well. Say, hey, here's what we've learned. Here's how to avoid some of those pitfalls. So that's what we are going to discuss today. And we'll talk about, again, our two key principles, one for asset protection and one for tax planning. And so I'll jump in here. And by the way, I have the Q&A up here on my other monitor. So if you have questions as we're going, the odds are really good that one of your friends or colleagues on this call has that similar question. So I'll grab those as we're going. But if I miss one, I trust that Beau and Zuber will grab me and let me know as we're going. And so with that, actually, Beau, am I missing anything before I just dive in here?
No, you're good for now. We're good.
All right, perfect. So I want to go ahead and talk about this first key principle of, in this case, we'll start with, of asset protection. I want to talk with you about investing not in your own name. And I know that sounds a little contrary, but here's what I mean. When you're investing, whether you are investing in real estate, whether you're investing in the stock market, or whether you're starting your own small business, and I know that's going to be key for our conversations later this afternoon. It's a big part of what Beau does as far as it relates to franchises and lending and things like that. So when you're starting your own business or you're doing your investing, the first and most important thing to do is to not do it in your own name. Use a business entity or use a trust instead. Today, we're going to focus on business entities. So we'll talk about LLCs. LLCs literally stand for a limited liability company. And let me tell you why they're so important. I had a client when I was a litigator. So this is before I came to Anderson Business Advisors. I had a client when I was a litigator. I came into his lawsuit. It was a big, wild, complicated thing. There were like 7 different parties. They all had cross claims against each other, and there were 4 different states were involved. It was a mess. But it all got started because of one very simple thing. This my client, so I'm going to draw him up here. Yay. He had his fingers in a lot of different pies. He had a very successful small business. So I'm going to draw that over here. And I'm just going to put $2 signs over here. He had a lot of money invested in this very successful small business. He also had a lot of cash and brokerage accounts. So I'll do another dollar sign here. He also, very importantly, had a large and very valuable piece of real estate. However, he did all of this in his own name. Everything he did was personal. And to a certain degree, for his small business, that mattered a little bit. He was a celebrity, relative celebrity in his industry, right? And so because of that, I can't tell you what it was for client confidentiality reasons, but he was a relative celebrity in his industry. What happened, though, is that another attorney caught wind of this, my client. We'll call him Steve. So this other attorney caught wind of Steve, and he looked Steve up online, and this other attorney saw Steve's name slapped everywhere. Did a quick Google search and not only saw that Steve owned a small business, but he also saw that Steve had this property. Because, again, Steve owned it in his personal name. Ownership records for real estate are public. They're publicly searchable. So if my wife and I, we don't, but hypothetically, right, if we own 6 properties in our own personal name, boosh, that's a matter of public record. And so when this attorney looked up and he saw Steve slapped everywhere online, and it was really obvious that Steve had a lot of money, that lawsuit was coming no matter what. Why? Because the attorney knew he could get money. Unfortunately, that's the calculus that a lot of attorneys go through nowadays, is they do not base the ability or the decision to file a lawsuit on whether or not their client has a good claim. No, they base it on whether the other party has money. And to a certain degree, that's understandable. You don't want to put your client through all of these billable hours just to get to a point where they can't get anything out of it anyways. But regrettably, it's now flipped to where if the other party has money, that lawsuit is coming no matter what. And it's unfortunately just a part of the profession now. So here we are. Steve had money, and so the lawsuit came. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, because Steve did everything in his personal name, Steve's bank accounts were locked up, his property was locked up, it put a judicial lien on his property, and he found himself living off of his mother very quickly. Him and his kids. Ooh, it was no fun. I came into the lawsuit much after this had happened, and I was able to convince the judge to walk back a little bit, which candidly is kind of a miracle. If any of you are familiar with litigation, convincing a judge to walk back anything is a pretty big deal, but most of the damage had already been done. Now, if Steve had literally just done these couple of simple things, if all he had done was used an LLC to run his business, if all he had done was use an LLC to hold his real estate, none of this would have happened. Why? Because LLCs are considered different legal entities. I realize that's a little bit of legalese there, but what it means basically is that the LLC is not you. So if you have a piece of real estate and there is a slip and fall on a property, so we have a property up here, and you own that piece of real estate directly in your personal name, you are going to be sued. Why? Because you're the owner of the property. However, if we have this piece of real estate and it is owned by an LLC, even if you own that LLC, what happens now is that LLC owns the property instead of you. First, this means that you cannot be sued if there's a slip and fall on property. Why? You don't own the property. The LLC does. And it's also true that this hides your ownership. If my wife and I own 6 pieces of real estate and all of those pieces of real estate are in LLCs, suddenly our ownership is hidden. Cannot just look it up online to see what assets we have. Makes it much more difficult for an attorney sniffing around for a quick buck to see that you are wealthy or that you're aspiring to be wealthy, right? A lot of us who are real estate investors may not feel like we're wealthy for the first little bit as we're trying to make it grow, right? We've talked about Beau and Phil and Zuber talked about setbacks, right? That absolutely happens no matter where you are. But if we look like we're wealthy, then that lawsuit is coming. So the LLC is really big because it also hides your ownership. We call it being anonymous. So we get legal separation. You're now legally different from your property because of the LLC, but you're also anonymous. Even better, though, is when we do multiple layers. Here, I'll draw it like this. We have a local LLC. We might want to have that local LLC be owned by an LLC that is in a state that has great protection. We use Wyoming for most of our real estate investors. It's not always going to be Wyoming. Delaware is another good one, as is Nevada. But for our purposes today, we'll use Wyoming as an example. We might have a Wyoming parent company that owns several other LLCs that own properties themselves. Why? Because we then get even better protection in Wyoming than we would have in our other local states. So this is vital to protection here, is making sure that you're not investing in your own name. Again, that provides separation, and that also provides anonymity, making you less of a target for lawsuits. And then what's even better is that those LLCs then also become part of your tax planning. I hope you'll forgive me as I scroll here for half a second. I thought I saw a question come in, so I'm going to make sure I see that. So somebody asked a question here. If the LLC, even if it's a sole member LLC, does it still give protection? And the answer is in a lot of states, yes. So for example, in Wyoming, if I down here were the sole member of this LLC, I'm not, my wife and I invest together, but if hypothetically I were, Wyoming says very specifically that single member LLCs still get protection in court. That's not the case in all 50 states, but in Wyoming it is. One of the many reasons why we like Wyoming. So in this case, if it's a Wyoming LLC, the answer to your question there, I think it's Pauline, is yeah, absolutely. You still get that protection. It's a big part of why we use a parent company in a state that has good protection. So this way, again, we get that separation there. I'll keep going here, but you can see a little bit more about LLCs up here is that we say, hey, LLCs, you can see over here, they have flexible tax options. That's right. We can use different tax elections when we form an LLC, depending on what your situation is. And you'll see over here, we're going to talk about corporations here in a second. LLCs can actually be taxed like corporations if the situation calls for it. So not only do you get the protection of an LLC, again, limited liability company, but then you also get the tax planning that comes with using that corporate tax status. So this is a huge part of putting together a holistic plan. And that transitions to my second point. So the first point, like we just talked about, is that when you're investing, whether it's small business ownership on the stock market or in real estate, do not do so in your own personal name. Use an LLC instead. Usually, obviously, your situation may be a little different, but use something else besides your personal name. That's the biggest key. Pardon me. The second principle here is our key principle for tax planning. And let me go ahead and show that to you. The big key that the hyper wealthy use and take advantage of when they keep their taxes down is this. That there are 2 different tax codes in the United States and under the IRS tax code. The first is the personal. And this is a lot of our W-2 jobs. Obviously, my wife and I have our investments. I still get a W-2 from Anderson, where we earn money, we're taxed on it, and then we spend it afterwards. And that's how it works. We earn money, or we take out our deductions, our withholdings, and we do the taxes on that, and then we spend whatever is left afterwards. However, businesses are not the same. The business tax code says that you earn money, you spend it, and then you are taxed on whatever is left over. The overarching principle that I want you to take away for tax planning, I guess you could say there are 2. The first is that we use the business tax code. Get as much of your investing as you can over into that business tax code. That's going to be key for what our other presenters are talking about this afternoon with Beau and with Rick and with Zuber, talking about your small business ownership, whether it's franchises or whatever else you're doing. You get those investments into the business tax code. That's where you save on taxes. That's where you save on taxes. I actually saw another quick question here. And I saw this is really interesting. Somebody asks, how does protection work or tax planning work if you use personal credit to start your business? And that's a great question, because a lot of us do have to do that when we're starting our own businesses. The big key here, and I'll illustrate this with our plumber up here, is that if you use an LLC, you are still allowed to fund your own LLC. Our plumber can put personal funds into the LLC if he needs to in order to get us started, in order to purchase supplies, in order to keep things going, right? He can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. You still get that legal separation when you're using an LLC, as long as you treat it like it is separate, if that makes sense. And this applies to tax planning and to asset protection, is if you treat your business like it's separate from you, then the court will do the same in a lawsuit. So for my wife and I, we might have money in an LLC. Rather than spending that money directly from the LLC bank account, we take it out first to our personal names. And then we, go take our kids on a trip or something like that. The inverse is also true. If one of our businesses needs cash, we don't spend it directly from our personal account. We contribute it, or we deposit the money into the LLC account first, and then we spend it on the business. That way you've created separation, because you're showing, hey, I'm treating this like it's separate. I'm not commingling, if you will, funds. And so this is, again, key for our tax planning. Let's talk about these two different tax codes. So we have an individual over here. You see, he's kind of set up as a stock market trader. Let's say he makes $100,000. Our trader, or we could say stock market investor too, right? Either way, without proper tax planning, without using business entities, if he makes $100,000 in a given year, he's going to be taxed on all of that. There's not really any deductions that are allowed to traders or to long-term investments on the stock market. However, we have our plumber over here. If our plumber makes $100,000, but he spends, let's just say he spends $15,000 on supplies for his business. Let's say he spends another $10,000 on professional fees like attorneys and accountants, things like that. Let's say he spends another $10,000 on education, on licensing, on making sure he has all the certificates, things like that in a given year. And then we'll add one more. Let's say we have another $5,000 in miscellaneous expenses, might be marketing, might be website maintenance, other things like that, right? So we have over here $40,000 in expenses. So what happens then is our plumber has made $100,000, just like our stock market investor, but he is only taxed on $60,000. Why? Because he earns money, he spends it, and then he's taxed on whatever's left over. This is how, again, using this principle, is how the hyper wealthy keep their taxes down. Amazon is a great example of this, the corporation. Years ago, there was an uproar on social media about Amazon's effective tax rate being, I believe it was less than 2%. Now, less than 2% is still hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars for Amazon, but the effective tax rate was very low. Funny enough, Amazon put out a statement in response to that social media uproar, and they said, we pay every dollar we owe. They never actually denied that their tax rate was that low. Why? Because Amazon spends so much money. They spent money, for example, a recent one, they spent just gobs of money on research and development for electric delivery vans. And they got a tax write-off for that, so they pay less in taxes. I had a weightlifting coach. This was years ago. I used to be a competitive weightlifter. You can't tell now, but this was years ago. I had a weightlifting coach who did something very similar, obviously, but on a much smaller scale. And this is something that the crew will talk about later this afternoon. Beau and Zuber and Rick will talk about this. Is my weightlifting coach, her husband was a very high earning, very wealthy W-2 earner. It's a CFO for a large multinational corporation. And my coach, she spent all sorts of money on her weightlifting gym. And I knew this. I was actually in law school at the time. This was years ago. And I knew this. And I could see that she was losing money on it. But what was key is that she was losing money on it, but she was going in every day and participating. She was going in and doing the work. And because of that, the money that she lost every year actually offset her husband's income. So then her gym that was losing money actually lowered the amount of taxes that they were paying on her husband's income because the loss was able to offset it. I asked her once, I said, hey, you're not making any money on this gym. And she looked at me and said, well, Jeff, I just love the sport. And I said to her, no, really. And I kind of quietly whispered, I was like, is this just a tax game? And she looked at me and she kind of winked and she said, Jeff, I just love the sport. And to her credit, she did love the sport. She actually got called up to coach Team USA shortly after I graduated from law school. So this is huge, is using this business tax code. And let me tell you here in these last couple minutes, let me tell you how we leverage this for real estate investing. Because real estate falls under the business tax code, and real estate has something awesome that we can use called depreciation. Depreciation is a vital part of tax planning when you're investing in real estate, because unlike Amazon that spent millions and millions of dollars on electric vehicle research, and unlike my coach who spent a bunch of money on weightlifting equipment, depreciation is an expense that offsets your taxes that you do not actually spend money on. Quickest and easiest way to get depreciation is through real estate investing. So if you purchase a property and you run it as a short-term rental and you spend a lot of money and you spend some money getting it ready on furniture, on making it look nice, but then you also have depreciation. You might have heard of a cost segregation study. That's where this comes in, the cost segregation study, where you say, hey, I'm going to take this house that normally depreciates or loses money equally over 27.5 years. You can actually increase that because portions of the house will get you more tax deductions using that cost segregation study, more depreciation. And so you might make $10,000 per year on the short-term rental, but with depreciation, you might lose $35,000. What do you do with that paper loss? Again, depreciation is not money that you spend. It's a paper loss. So what do you have now? You have negative $25,000, which becomes then a $25,000 loss that you can then offset against other income. This is why the hyper wealthy love real estate. I once saw a very, very wealthy CEO on social media talk about how he lowered his salary down to $70,000 to give his employees the ability to afford living, which I'll give him some credit. $70,000 is a lot less than a lot of CEOs pay themselves. But his secret is that he was a real estate investor. And so he had a lot of money parked in other places that he was making a bunch of money on, but it was also he was using to save on taxes. So he didn't need that salary in the first place. So this is how the hyper wealthy do it. And these are the same strategies that you can engage in. Whether it's starting your own small business and getting tax deductions and write-offs using that, or whether it's investing in real estate or doing other things. We've only scratched the surface. Your investing not only builds your wealth, but also allows you to be a better steward of your money than the federal government is. So again, those are our two key principles today. Is first, do not invest in your personal name. And second, use that business tax code to your advantage. And as a thank you to everyone for coming, I'm going to skip all the way ahead here. We love working with Beau and with his team. And so as a thank you to everybody for coming today, we have a free strategy session where you can sit down and talk with myself or with one of our other colleagues, one of our other expert attorneys and strategists, to talk about your situation, talk about how you can save on taxes, talk about how you can protect your assets and your estate as you continue to grow and invest in your wealth and your business. Beau and Zuber, are you still out there?
We're here. Yeah, I love it. You broke it down in a very simple manner. And essentially, this is what Zuber and I talk about over and over again. It's like so many people I talk to, high-paid W-2, don't know anything about tax strategy, and they're making good money, right? And then they're like, Beau, I don't have anything left at the end of the year. I live in California. Yes. It's like, guys, you got to learn these principles. This is what's going to change the game for you. And maybe it's a little bit in the beginning, but as you start growing your investing business, right, and you learn about, why a STR might be more advantageous, even if you're not a real estate professional, or if you learn that, hey, I can buy this $100,000 of vending machines, and it's all depreciation.
Absolutely.
I am really passionate about this because I see it day in and day out that people aren't setting themselves up for success. And that's really, at the end of the day, you have to set yourself up up for success, because if you're making great money but there's nothing left over, what's the point of making great money? We want to keep more in your pocket so you can then, that 50 grand you saved, what do? You deploy it into real estate, you deploy it into vending.
Absolutely.
And I think, I have this conversation with my brother all the time. He's a high-paid W-2, has no tax write-offs, smart dude, economics degree. And I'm like, why don't you do something? You make $1.2 million on your W-2. And he's like, well, I got, it was his whole FINRA thing. I'm like, no, you should do something. Everybody should do something. If you can save money legally, and more to the bottom line, why wouldn't you sit in a workshop like this, go, oh, they'll give me 30 minutes of their time for free? Great. I will set up a call with Jeff and his team. Because look, if you don't, this is the meat and potato of the meat and potato. You got to make money, you got to save money, you got to set up the right entity. So if you get sued, they can't find you. They're suing your entity, and you're not part of the transaction. I've gotten sued one time, or I should say, I got named in a lawsuit one time in my life, and it caused me so much freaking stress, and it was like very frivolous. But I can tell you, like, having yourself set up the right way protects you, and you need to be protected in this litigious world we live in. No offense to Jeff, but there's, he used to be a litigator. Zuber, any thoughts there?
No, I mean, this is just one of the conversations that, I frankly always say, sorry, not a lawyer, not an attorney, because you got to stay in your lane. And that's why I like having partners like this who will step up and graciously give a quick conversation, because, being afraid of being sued or how to set up a trust is all great questions, and frankly, stuff I always punt because it's not my area of expertise. So thanks to Anderson Advisors for, having this link where people can get a call. That's very gracious.
Awesome. Thank you, both of you as well. And thank you for having us, and look forward to talking with a few of you soon.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It was a great presentation. All right. Zuber, I made a mistake. You are actually going next because Jeff had to run out and take care of something. So he's going to go back at his original time. So now we're switching back and playing switchies here. So I hope you're prepared, Zuber, because you're up. And Zuber's basically, his conversation is economic outlook. If you follow his channel, you already know that he has an economics degree. He's a real estate investor. He studies this stuff. He's a total nerd in that capacity. But he breaks down things I don't know, like CPI and all this other stuff. But he'll put it in layman's terms for us. I was, kind of what I said is, hey, can you paint a picture for us what's going on and where you think the opportunities are going to be?
Absolutely. And again, I will take it. There are 3 questions that I've seen, one from Anil about the Bay Area real estate, one from Anonymous, fear on exiting, and then one from Chip about working with your wife. So I will take those 3. But yeah, go ahead, guys, put your questions in there. All I do is answer questions each and every day. So I'm here for you. What I would tell folks to start this off is the wealth formula, right? How to get wealthy hasn't changed in over 100 years. It is really simple, and I will give it to you here because, no gatekeeping on information. Step 1, you have to create disposable or discretionary income. You have to have money left over. You have to live below your means, at least for a little while. The good thing is about creating discretionary income is there's only 3 things you could do. 1, you could cut expenses. 2, you could increase income. Or 3, you can do both. First and foremost, cutting expenses is immediate. Canceling a subscription or canceling something is immediate. But also, cutting expenses is not fun. You really can only cut so far. In my real life case, Olivia and I cut 50%, but we couldn't go lower. So it does have a finite end. You have a lot more upside if you look on increasing income via side hustle or changing jobs or commission or whatever your thing is. But that's the key. You cannot get wealthy unless you have discretionary income, and that discretionary income are what I call seeds. Those seeds will be planted in step 2. Step 2 is you have to become elite at something. I do not believe in diversification, at least early in your journey. You can't plant seeds in real estate, in classic cars, in crypto, in stocks, in small business, in this, in that, in the beginning. The seeds are too small. They're too spread out, loss of focus. It's just not there. I believe in today's world, there are endless ways to get wealthy. I happen to choose getting focused on what I call a buy box, 93703, single family homes, all of that. But I really don't care what you choose. It could be running a small business. It could be buying a franchise. It could be vending machines. It could be Pokemon cards. Whatever it is. I know people have all kinds of areas they have chosen to work on. I have a buddy of mine who actually he's ice hockey trading cards. I didn't even know they had trading cards 1950s for ice hockey, but that's his chosen love. The beauty about becoming elite at something is you can identify value. Identifying value is step 2. Buy low, sell high. I mean, simply said, if you can take advantage of a situation where there is a great deal or create a great deal, that is how you take the seeds from step 1 and put it in step 2 by becoming an elite investor at something. And then step 3, you have to do it for a decade. This is where lots of people go wrong. They don't realize that life's going to happen. Like, ask if you're watching this today, how old were you 10 years ago? How old were you 20 years ago? Life happens. I'm asking you to start a journey that takes a decade. I'm here to tell you that the first 5 years suck, right? The snowball, the energy, the growth hasn't really had a chance to compound yet. You're going to make all kinds of mistakes. You're going to buy something you thought was a great deal and it wasn't for some reason. Right? If you know my story in my first book, One Rental at a Time, my first tenant never paid me rent. I had to evict them 90 days later. I had a $15,000 repair on my very first house. It almost crushed me. This game is not for, it's going to be hard those first 5 years. So that's the wealth formula. Now, let's step forward. Let's talk about today, right? 2026. I first thought that 2026, and I have videos on this heading into January, that I thought the real estate and really the entire U.S. economy was going to start getting on stronger footing. I didn't think it was going to be crazy, but I thought 2025 was the bottom and 2026 would be a year of healing. I now believe with this Iran war that now has all been jumbled up. We have seen interest rates, go from 5.99 to the highest since October at 6.3 or whatever it is today. We've seen GDP for Q4 come in unexpectedly weak at 0.7. We now have a consumer that's scared. And we have a consumer that's scared on multiple fronts. Not only do we have a war, which is always terrifying, and now in oil at 100, we also have the threat of AI, right? If you guys aren't paying attention, Block just announced a 40% layoff. It's rumored that Meta on Monday will announce a 20% layoff or 16,000 people at Meta or Facebook. This is coming. This AI thing is coming. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a lot easier to cut before we see the new careers. And this is why my conversation with Beau every week is so important. I call it a plan B. White collar is going to be a target in this couple of years, right? It just is, right? You see the writing on the wall. It's no secret. There's no reason to put your head in the ground. AI is going to reduce headcount. We've seen scary stats that some people think, it's going to cause 20% unemployment. I am not in that camp, but it's going to hurt. And if you're impacted by it, it's really going to hurt. So again, that's why I think getting a plan B, right? Getting, I think vending, you and I talk about that entree to start for a lot of people, lots of tax benefits that we talk about, or real estate, right? Create a piggy bank, whatever that is for you. It's the time to kind of, like Coach Phil said, take ownership of where you are. And I think most people watching this have some level of fear about what is coming. And, you can either just keep being afraid or you could start having some plan B, things in the background. So those are my first couple of thoughts. I'll take the questions now. And if there's been others, you guys can lead me, but I'll do the first 3. So Anil's first. The Bay Area is losing tech jobs. Yeah, see my earlier comment. Real estate is down. Transactions are down. Prices, I haven't seen Bay Area prices down. And predicted to go down further. What is your input? I've said this before. I think there are a few cities, Seattle, Austin, the greater Bay Area, that are very tech heavy, that are very vulnerable to significant white collar layoffs. They just are. I mean, if you look at the Bay Area and what do you, 60% of the employment in the Bay Area is tech, maybe 50%, something. And if you lose even 5% of that, that's going to have an impact. It's just is. The question is going to be, because of the Silicon Valley, Seattle, Austin, will there be enough of new companies created to absorb that demand? And I think if you step back and you have the luxury of time, the answer is, of course it will. Historically speaking, innovation has created more jobs than it's destroyed. But unfortunately, if you're a human being, the timing is off. I think we're going to have more losses before we have more gains. And that's just the reality of the situation. So there's absolutely reasons to be scared and be nervous. But again, back to my earlier point, you can either blame other people or you can own your shit. And you need to take action and stop being afraid. That's what drives me crazy is, okay, you're an engineer and you're afraid you're going to be let go. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're just going to be afraid? Or are you going to try to look at what you have in front of you and try to create a plan B? Are you going to man up or wuss out? That's the question. I do think, to be very explicit, that there are markets like Austin, Seattle, and the Bay Area that have some real estate pain in the future. How much? No idea, but pain for sure. So that's a Neil. Step number 2. What was your fear you guys had starting to take the leap from stable W-2 life? I didn't have that fear because my job was taken away in 5 minutes. I had thought I was going to work until I was 50 and it ended when I was 45. Now, thankfully, back to the earlier question, I had a real estate portfolio, so money was never my problem. I used my job as my ego. I was the best at what I did. I took 3 products from 0 to 100 million, and I was paid accordingly. Even being the best at what I did, my job was yanked for me, February 3rd or 4th of 18, and I didn't expect it. I was shocked. But thankfully, I had this real estate portfolio that paid my bills, so I could figure out what else to do. So that's the question for that. And then the last one I have from Chip is, any advice for starting a business with your wife? Separation of duties relative to single family rentals. How do you step away from a business activity and transition? This one I can talk about a lot because I was very fortunate to have Olivia in my corner and we were building this together since day one. We absolutely had separations of duties. I was supposed to secure capital and find deals, and she was running the business and raising our family. It's not lost on me that I spent 6 days traveling the world a week and only was home on Saturday. That's why I often say every day is Saturday when people ask me what's going on, because that means something to me. I now operate like every day is Saturday because for Australia, I was all over this freaking earth. And the only way I could do that is we had that focus. And the last thing is, I'll tell you that we talked every Friday. We had this habit that we did together where we would do sushi dinners on Friday. And I would tell her first about the deals I'm working on, and then she would tell me about the portfolio. And that's just how we stayed connected and on top of this together. You definitely need roles and responsibilities, definitely need scheduled communication because this is hard. The last thing I'll say about doing this with your partner is, when I was down, she was up, and when I was up, she was down, and we just, we pulled together and we did this. I could not have done it alone. In fact, I've been very clear with people that first property that, I talked about earlier almost crushed me, but she was the one that said, keep going. So again, she deserves all the credit for what we built. So those are the first 3 questions I had. I don't know if any other came in, but I'm happy to take others if there are any. You guys see any?
I don't see any per se, but I think that was really good information. I mean, ultimately the writing's on the wall with that. I didn't know about how the job cuts being that significant, but overall, in my mind, that means there's going to be, if you're in the Bay Area, there might be some opportunities, or Seattle or Austin or these tech hubs. But, in real estate investing, up or down, people are still always buying real estate as investors because they know what a deal is in this given stated market.
Yeah, what I would tell people, and again, this I'm uncomfortable saying the following, but I feel it with every fiber of my body. When you look at the real estate, the housing market, frankly, the economy today, it sucks to be a seller. You don't want to be a seller in this environment. Second, if you're just your ordinary home buyer, most of you are scared. But here's the deal. About 10% of the people that are left are my people, real estate investors. Do the work, buy box, daily discipline. And as terrible as the real estate market is for 90% of the people, it's amazing for us. Why? Well, what do we want? The number one rental at a time thing, investors want is less competition. Congratulations. War, AI, recession. Lots of people are not going to be in the market. So congratulations. We have a lot less demand. Step 2, what do we want? We want to have more inventory. Inventory is growing. More importantly, the inventory that we want, the motivated sellers are growing. How do I know that? Well, folks, we had record cancellations in November and December, and we've had record relistings. Let me tell you something about a seller who listed last year, took it off the market, and then relisted this year. They are highly motivated. They have done this twice now. So lots of opportunity for disrespectful offers following up. And then the last thing I'll say is I'm starting to see the signs of multifamily finally breaking. If you follow my channel, you know that I've been talking about the multifamily syndicators going bust. There were so many horrible deals done in 21 and 22 that are now coming up, right? When you're doing a deal at a cap rate of 4, then the cap rate's suddenly 6.5, you're stuck. The equity is gone. You have burned LP capital. But here's the deal. Somebody's going to pick that asset up at 40% off, 60% of past purchase. And that's why if you follow my channel, I recently raised $1 million on top of the pile I already had, because I see a lot of opportunity coming, right? When the economy goes bad, and we're on the cusp of what I think could be bad, opportunities explode for the prepared. So I'm excited for what's coming. Like, I'm low-key excited because, again, I've been doing this for 30 years and I've operated the other cycles extremely well, right? I sold my houses in 2007, 1031 into apartments. I'm ready to do that again. And I own a lot more than 8 houses today. So the opportunity in front of us as investors is the best I've seen in 5 years. I hate 2020 and 21 where everybody's winning. I hate those environments because it's cash and quick close, and you get these losers coming off the sideline that don't know what they're doing, but they're winning. They're pretenders. They're fakes. I want a market that's hard. I want a market that's for the grinders. I want a market that's for the daily discipline and the focus. And that's what we're going to get in 2026. So I am super excited. I'm looking to deploy capital like I haven't in years. And I would just tell people to get focused, get a buy box, and do the work.
Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. I think that's very exciting. I think real estate investors might actually get excited again.
Yeah. What is a buy box from Festino? Sorry if I mispronounced that. My apologies. A buy box is a term that I coined in real estate, that it's a set of criteria that produces a finite list of 20 to 40 active listings that you look at every day. Here's my exact buy box from 2001. Single family homes, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, single story, between 1,200 and 2,000 square feet. That produced on an average day 25 listings. That's all I looked at. In fact, that's all I looked at for 3 years. What does that really mean? Well, first thing it means is I ignored 99.9% of the market. It means I flat out ignored it. Most new investors are not focused. They are all over the freaking place. And that's not my jam. I wanted to know what a great deal was in my buy box. So that's an example of a buy box.
Cool. I can't see if there's any other questions, so I don't have them.
Got a question from Jason. Question for Michael. Would you say that real estate market performs better in uncertain times? Do you feel that buyers should be more aggressive with purchase? How are you answering the concerns on interest rates? So first and foremost, I don't give a rat's ass about interest rates. I frankly, Jason, wish interest rates were 8%, 9%, because I'm going to do a deal that works today. I want high interest rates. Let me just say it more clearly. The higher the interest rates, the better it is for me, because I will do a deal with high interest rates that cash flow. And then again, I've been doing this forever. I'll just do a rate and term refi in 2, 3, 7, 9, whatever years it takes, and then my cash flow will explode. So again, this notion about fear of interest rates is misguided if you are a real estate investor, in my opinion. Second, uncertain times is where I get to pick up deals because lots of people are idiots. They over leverage. They have life events. I want to buy from a motivated seller, and there is no better time than uncertain times. That's the key to this whole thing, is sifting through the junk to find the motivated sellers. And that's why it takes focus and discipline. I have written hundreds of offers and got nothing. And then out of nowhere, I get one. It's a game. It's a numbers game. And most people don't do the work. I think I got one more question I can go to. What steps are required to acquiring the real estate deals as a new person to real estate with no experience? Well, first off, you got to get a buy box sheet. So basically you have to answer a question. What is an average deal in my buy box? And that just takes 90 days. And you don't do anything until you know average. Until you can articulate what an average deal is, you're gambling. And I don't believe in gambling. This is investing, not gambling. So, that's the cold, hard truth, is get focused and do the work for 90 days. Second, it helps to be around other people doing it so you can ask questions. I have a school community for $20 a month, 67 pennies a day, join or not. We've got almost 700 people going the same direction. So there is no better place. But yeah, the answer is we all started in the same place. I chose a market that I never lived in, never visited, didn't know anybody, and I learned it in 90 days. So can you. So again, buckle up and do the work. Michael, Neil, your analysis is good. If things improve, AI layoffs are irreversible. I don't know what that means, irreversible. I don't think so. I think, again, my belief studying economics for, back to 1970 and more historically over technology innovations is AI will create more jobs than it destroys. I am not in this world that thinks unemployment's going to be 20% for the rest of my life. I think as humans, we create. We just have a nature of creating. I do agree. Like I said, I think that AI will unfortunately cause more pain before it creates more good. I think the layoffs will be faster than job creation. So I do think there will be some duration risk, but I am not in this camp where we're going to suddenly be 20 and then 30 and then 40 and 50% unemployed. I can't fathom that. Could it happen? Sure. Right. We can also have AI terminators and the whole world ends, I guess. I don't believe in that dystopian future where we're all unemployed and living on universal basic income or some nonsense like that. I don't see it that way. That's my view of the world. How do I find a group? Go to Facebook, type in real estate groups. I mean, that's YouTube, right? Go to One Rental at a Time. It's got 18,000 videos to choose from. So I think I got them all.
I love that. Yeah. Guys, if you're not following or subscribe to Michael's YouTube channel, you're doing a disservice. I tune in all the time to catch up because I don't study economics and he just does it in a way where I understand it. Bill's got an economics degree too. That's not my skill set, so I just learn from Zuber's channel and get his perspective and what he sees. No, Ron, Michael's. Technically, yes, they are out of state because he lives in Nevada majority of the time, but he was in California and his buy box was a 2-hour drive from the San Francisco Bay Area. And he said, do you buy properties out of state? I have 12 homes, but would like to buy an apartment complex through a 1031. Yeah, owning that could be. I think Michael brought up that it might be a good time in the future when he sees a bubble about to burst because all these people got multifamily craze and said, oh, I'm going to go raise money and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to buy and leverage other people's money, and everybody got in. And when you don't understand underwriting a multifamily deal in your buy box, there's a saying that's called shit happens, and I think we might see more of a bubble of that. And so that's what his predictions are. So, but I used to invest out of state, and I mean, a larger property I might if I'm a investor, but not the operator. But if I would go back, I would listen to Zuber's one rental at a time strategy. I think a 2.5 hour radius where I could go walk the properties and make sure the contractors and the property managers are doing their job. I think that's really important, especially until you have the right team in place. Early on, you're going to have where you really need the cash flow, and you have all these maintenance issues. It's better to be in front of you, in my opinion. Are investors successful out of state? Yes, but I also think having experience at the time living in California, owning in Indiana, it's more of a pain in the rear end. And if you're buying out of state because you think you're going to get more cash flow, you're probably buying older housing stock that's really going to have a lot of CapEx. So I think I would do less, but do local in real estate investing. My personal take on it, at least.
No, I think well said. Know thyself.
Yeah. Should I purchase with a loan then sell the homes? I mean, we don't know your whole story, but usually people get good debt and lever the properties.
I would tell Ron, again, don't know your situation. It's like malpractice. I would tell you to look up something called a 1031 exchange. I used 1031 exchanges to go from 8 houses to 80 units. It was very profitable, but not right for every person and not right for every situation.
Awesome. Well, we're lined up for our next speakers. We're going to dive in and actually Zuber really likes this topic too. We're going to talk about the vending unintended retail space. We've got Jeff. Jeff is the co-founder of Smart Market Solutions. It's a very exciting opportunity. He knows this industry. He's been in it for years and years and years, many years. He's helped a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs become successful business owners. So, Jeff, if you're ready, I know you had just gotten back in. If you want to get I think you have a little presentation to share. This is going to be very exciting because Zuber and I always talk about the vending industry because it's one of my favorite industries. I work with a lot of, my role as a business coach is helping people find the right business models and building transition plans. And vending, Michael and I talk about being a gateway business. Like, hey, you need something that you can do while keeping your W-2. You need something with tax write-offs. You need something that you can monitor the sales on your phone. That's what's exciting about this industry, and a lot more as you see. So without further ado, Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Beau, it's good. It's good to be here today. Hopefully the screen's about to come on. Sorry, but dealing with a niece that's having a baby, so I'm trying to juggle everything here. So is that?
It's not sharing. It said starting to share, screen sharing. You might have to.
Hey, Rick, why don't you bring that up if you would?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and see if I can get
an
that.
Unexpected place in someone's basement, but babies take priority. So
Absolutely.
Makes sense. Let's see if I can get this pulled up here. Jeff, do you see that on your end?
yeah, I've got it.
Perfect.
So thanks, Beau. I appreciate the opportunity that Rick and I have to kind of talk to everyone about smart market solutions. My business partner and I, Mike Burnett, started the company in 1999. So we've been helping people start and grow businesses in this industry for 27 years. So we're really good at that. We've also been innovators in the vending industry for those 27 years. I was a Navy submariner, utilizing and capitalizing on technology as part of my DNA. Smart marts are really changing this entire industry. I really think that in 5 or 10 years, you won't see a traditional vending machine in any workplace in the country. They're going to be replaced by this newer technology. So we can go ahead next, Rick. So there's a picture of the Smart Mart there, and we're going to watch a video, and I'm going to tell you more about the technology in a second, but just kind of the 30,000 foot view, this is a great business. It's really similar to a franchise. And franchises are awesome because they give you, they take you by the hand and walk you through, help you get started in an industry that you know nothing about. But we would do one better. We're a business opportunity. So we have all the advantages of a franchise, but some really big, we get rid of all the disadvantages. This really is a true semi-passive income, right? That's what people are looking for. Just like real estate, right? You're making money when you're off doing something else. And it's the same with this. People are using this equipment in a lot of cases 24/7, and you're off doing something else while the money comes in. Because we're not a franchise, there are no royalties. So we don't get a percentage of one of our operators' business. They keep that money in their pocket. And also, they get to be their own boss. We help them all along the way, just like a franchise, but they get to be their own boss. They're truly an entrepreneur. So we teach them everything, but they get to make all the decisions. And there's no brick and mortar overhead. A lot of franchises, it's a year after you start that franchise before you've done your build out and you're up and running and money starts to come in. With this business, it's about 8 weeks after an investment. Someone's come to all of our training in Utah. They've worked with coaching. We've shipped all of their equipment into their area, and they've got their first Smart Mart in a location making money. So 8 weeks after the investment, money starts to come in, and that's pretty unusual in the franchise world. One of the other things people really like about it is the ability to start part-time. A lot of people they're working a job. They know they want to do something different, but they're just not ready to leave their job and their benefits. And with this, they don't have to. They can start this part-time. It's about an hour a week per Smart Mart. So they could buy 10 or 15 of these, work 10 or 15 hours a week, keep their job and their benefits, and scale it over time. And then they can make that move from their job when they're ready to do that. A big thing people like is no employees, right? A lot of people in corporate America are like, man, I am so tired of managing employees. And the worst thing, if you're in that frame of mind, is to start a franchise, because you're going to be spending all of your waking hours trying to manage a bunch of teenagers and a bunch of young adults who maybe don't have the same work ethic that you do. And so people love this no employee. One of the biggest one is the time freedom. We have a great software called Smart Sync. You're connected to all of your Smart Marts 24/7, real time. You can see exactly what's happening. You know when to stock one of these Smart Marts. You know exactly what to take. You can look at it and say, hey, I'm going to go stock it at 10 o'clock this morning. This drink's not selling. I'm going to take a replacement for it. So you're really in the driver's seat of having the ultimate time freedom. You can stock machines in the morning, at night, on weekends, on weekdays. You decide. And so you really get to live your life and run this business around that. It fits in very well with a lot of businesses like real estate, where if you're doing something in your real estate business and you've got 2 or 3 hours off from that, go stock a couple of machines. So very good fit for that. We can go next, Rick. So this equipment is really amazing. And I've talked about it replacing vending machines. And we're seeing that all over the country, where people, decision makers at locations, are looking closely at what this can do and saying, man, this is a no-brainer to replace that old coil vending machine. And one of the things they like about it is their employees and their customers get a true shopping experience. Vending machines are kind of like window shopping. You're behind the glass, right? All the products are there and you think you want it, but you can't touch it. You don't get to really know that you want it until after you buy it. A Smart Mart is really like a cooler at a convenience store. It's just locked. And as soon as someone opens it with a payment system, they actually now get to open the door and pull out products and look at them and say, you know, maybe it's gluten or carbs or sodium, whatever it is for their nutrition that they're thinking about. They can analyze that product and say, no, I don't want that. And they can put a product back and they're not going to be charged for that product. So this really is one of the things that locations really like. And Smart Marts hold a variety of products. A typical vending machine is Coke and Snickers. This has got the Coke and the Snickers, but it's also got the Trader Joe's and Whole Foods kinds of products. It's got the salads and the sandwiches and all of those kinds of things. So if they can eat lunch out of this vending machine and have a great nutritious lunch. We can go next, Rick, and Rick's going to show this video, and this is exactly how it works.
You guys let me know if you can hear it.
We can't.
All right, excellent. Give me 1 second. Bear with me. Here we go. I trained Jeff on how to do this correctly, but I didn't expect for him to throw it my way at the beginning, so here we go.
Still no sound, Rick.
All right, we'll try one more time. I thought I shared sound there. Not sure why it's not working. Let's try one more time. And if not, we'll have to see why it's not working.
No sound. I'll walk through it, Rick. So this is what it looks like, and it's got all of the products there. You're going to see Morgan, who's going to walk up to this equipment and buy some products. And so it's lunchtime for her. She wants something to eat. She's going to come up. She can insert a card. She can swipe it. She can tap it, or she can use the digital wallet on her phone. Whichever option is fine. It unlocks, and now she has access to all the products. In this case, Morgan grabs a sandwich. She grabs a bag of chips. She grabs a Diet Coke. She takes a look at the Diet Coke, and maybe not the Diet Coke this time, puts that back and grabs a Smart Water. Maybe that's a better choice for her. The AI vision cameras are watching all of this happen. It's keeping track of what she's taking, what she's putting back. So she could pull 10 products out, and it's going to keep track of all of that. When she's done, she just walks away, and the door locks, and the card's charged, and she's off with her lunch. So this is it's a contactless way to shop. You're not putting in a bunch of dollar bills, trying to fold them and refold them to get them to work. It's a really slick, frictionless way to do shopping. And you can put any products that you want in it. And we'll talk about some of the products here in just a couple of minutes. But one of the things that it's going to move to next, we've got an advertising screen. So now you have a way to add your passive income to your semi-passive income. And so you put this in an office building. You go to the local companies and they pay you to play their video, the car dealership, the restaurant. And so this is a whole additional revenue stream there. So this really is going to be the replacement for vending machines. So this MediaLink billboard, it really is amazing. There are people that are making as much or more money from their advertising as they are from the products that are inside. And it really gives you the opportunity to kind of branch out and really be an entrepreneur and kind of take things to the next level with your business. And of course, at our 2-day training, Smart Mart University, we teach someone exactly how to monetize this. And people are really smart. They're coming up with really great ideas on their own as well. We can go next, Rick. So you can see a couple of machines here and just a couple of points. You know, if this was in a big office plaza, Down on the Smart Mart on the left, you've got meal kits. Those are fajitas and stuffed peppers specifically. But now someone can buy their dinner and they don't have to stop at the store to get it. They can grab it, they can take it home, they can throw it in the oven. If this was a big hotel, you'd probably add a fourth Smart Mart and sell the phone chargers, the razors, the dental floss, the shaving cream, all of those kinds of things. Without coils of a vending machine, you can sell anything you want. You could put one of these in a condo complex or an apartment complex and sell milk, bread, eggs, cheese, all of the things that people maybe want as they're trying to make something at home. Now they don't have to run out to the store to get it. So a lot of flexibility there. We like to say, as it says there, it's smarter than vending, it's faster than franchising, and it's more scalable than anything we know. Because once you get these out there, people have really never seen. They might have seen them in an airport. They've never really seen them out in other places. And so you start getting these referrals. You have a little QR code on it that says, hey, scan this if you want to find out how to get these in your business. Once people get their first set out there, they typically grow from the referrals that they get. You can kind of see the prices there. We have packages of different sizes, and all of those packages are really all inclusive to give you everything that you need to get up and running. And Rick, you can take and kind of talk about the next set.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Jeff. So speaking of all inclusive in our packages, I just wanted to quickly touch on our world-class Smart Mart University. So we get all the benefits of a franchise as a business opportunity. So we still operate as such. With that, if you do decide to move forward with a Smart Markets business, you're going to get to a chance to come to headquarters in Utah and spend 2 days with us, where we're going to be covering everything that involves this business. Some of the key points here when you're in Utah would be learning all about the equipment, all about the products and locations, software, business operations, and marketing, right? A big thing that you're going to be gaining here outside of all that knowledge is also lifetime coaching. So training doesn't stop after Discovery Day. You're going to get a dedicated coach that's going to be there to assist you at a moment's notice if anything comes up, right? If you have any questions about your software or whether you should be selling this or that, there is a coach there that is there to ensure that you're having a successful business. So we are there every step of the way, not only up until training and Discovery Day, but beyond for the lifetime of your business.
And I'll add, Rick, there, a big part of this is we're going to help this new operator get all of their equipment into great locations. That's the biggest thing, the biggest hurdle for people when they enter this business. And we help you do that. We can either do it for you or with you. But we're going to make sure all of your equipment gets into those great locations.
I love it. Thank you, Jeff. All right, guys. So that was today's presentation for Smart Market Solutions. We really hope that you guys don't miss the opportunity. I've seen in the chat, there was a fellow in there that asking, hey, I'm 65 and I'm really not looking to do anything full time. This is a perfect opportunity for someone that has a similar experience, that is looking for passive income that doesn't require too much of their time. This is also, as Beau alluded to, an opportunity for those folks that are just getting into business ownership, wanting to keep their W-2. Please consider us, because this is something that would easily fit into your daily lives. With that said, if you guys do have any questions or want to explore Smart Market Solutions even further, I would highly recommend you reaching out to Beau. He can provide more information, whether that's connecting with us directly so that you could speak to an advisor that can kind of walk you through the process, help you understand what it takes to become an owner, or if you would prefer to speak with one of our active operators, we could also set that up as well. But either step you decide to go with, I would highly recommend that you reach out to Beau, and he will guide you on how to get in contact with us.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. We put a link in the chat or the Q&A, so you can. It's just put your name, number, a zip code, so we can see. It's available in most states, but not all states. So go ahead and put that in, and then we'll set up a call. I can walk you through this because I know the ins and outs, and see if it's a good initial fit. Then we get you on with the team, and you'll go through a learning process. This isn't like, hey, make a decision tomorrow. They educate you. You talk to owners. You get on group calls. There's a lot you'll learn, but I've helped lots and lots of people get into business, and You know, a lot of people, I call them the in-betweeners. We call them people that are still not ready to transition out of the day job. But we've found vending just as a great segment. And we also found this to be a great segment. And I'm hearing this conversation more and more and more. Families that have children that want to teach their kids about business ownership. They also need the tax write-off potential. I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax attorney, but the depreciation that Jeff was talking about earlier from Anderson Business Advisors, that is a good 1-2 punch. As far as there's some other questions I'll just touch on, and you guys have more expertise. The team helps you identify locations. So that's the advantage, right? Like, you don't just go buy a machine and figure it out. You're getting instructed, and they're actually helping you identify the right locations. And through all the calls that you will do, you'll learn every step of this because it's very important you understand it. And they'll take you through a process so you understand how the business. There's a lot of questions, guys. We do this all the time, and I know. But yes, you're going to get locations, help, and assistance. They're going to train you eventually to be your own location finder, which is very important to build those skills over time as well. So that's a good question, though. So we'll go over all those questions that you have. I know, Zuber, do you have questions? Because we always talk about this business model.
I guess the one thing I like that I saw in the preparing for this is you could really call these micro stores. I do think a lot of folks watching this think vending's all about food and drinks, and you kind of hit it in one of your examples, doing the phone chargers and all of this. Again, you could put theoretically anything in this because you don't have the coils being the limiter to this.
That's
so
correct.
Again, just talk about the idea of micro stores, because I think that's a very nice twist on this.
Yeah, it's, we have people, we love working with people, especially people who are already entrepreneurs, because they come up with the most amazing things. I mean, we have people who, are selling, everything from gluten-free cupcakes to parts for classic cars to everything you can imagine. When you take those coils out, you can sell anything you want to sell. You can sell pickleball rackets. You can sell anything you want to sell. And coming back to something you said, Beau, our business does qualify for Section 179 of the IRS. It's an amazing program. So if you started with a $116,000 investment for 10 of these, it comes right off of your taxable income. So if your taxable income was $250,000 from all of your sources, and you invested in this business and got these out there, you're going to take that $116,000 right off of your taxable income, and you're going to pay taxes on a lot less money. So because it's an equipment purchase, you get that, and that's an amazing tax benefit for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you mind elaborating on whether companies charge us for placement and getting these in the doors?
Yeah, that's one of the things we've really gotten good at, especially over the last 10 years, is getting equipment in without any kind of a revenue share. You'll have some, and we teach people at Smart Mart University how to get it in without revenue. And if they ask for it, how to avoid it. But if you have to pay it, how to do that so that most of the money stays in your pocket. Most companies they come to the conclusion, look, we're a software company or we're an insurance company. We don't need to be making money off of our employees, buying their lunch and their snacks. So we're not going to ask for that revenue share.
Excellent. On that note, what about the electricity? Someone had a question about electricity cost and if that is included or built into the deal somehow.
Yeah, I know of no one out of thousands who are paying for someone's electricity. It's like $11 a month. And we even have a website where we can say, based on the electricity it uses, here's what the cost is in your area. It's much more energy efficient than the most energy efficient vending machine.
I love it. I got another one here for you. Patrick wants to know what's the buy-in for Smart Market Solutions. Let's just say we're going with a 10-pack that we shared earlier. What comes with it? Is it location services? Is there any room in that investment? Could you talk about what comes with that investment as a whole?
That includes all of the equipment. It includes us shipping all of that equipment from our facility in Charlotte to right into your local area. It includes the delivery right to the end location where they bring it in, they take it off the pallet, haul away the packing material. It's the coaching, it's the training, it's the software, it's all of that knowledge. All of those things are included in that package for $116,000.
I love it. Speaking of technology, speaking of AI, I know we've talked about it a couple times here on the call. We have a question here that's asking, how does the AI prevent customers from grabbing stuff if they don't have funds in their account, things of that nature? So how do we deal with, customers that may be trying to steal something?
The door only unlocks to a valid payment system. And we've set it up so you can't use like a Visa gift card, with $20 on it and open the door and take $40 worth of stuff. So it's only going to open if we've got someone's debit card or credit card. And if they only have $20 in their account and they buy $30 worth of stuff, it's set up with the banks that we're going to get paid the $30. Their account goes $10 negative, and they just have to, make that up, transfer from another account. But we don't have anybody taking more from the Smart Mart than they're getting paid for.
Excellent. Anthony, I'm going to take this question for you. What's the stocking process like? Jeff already alluded to the software that they'll be gaining. Sync. Basically, at the end of the week, they're going to be able to detect how many products they have to take with them. I like to call it their weekend errands when they're filling these up. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to look at their smart sync. It's going to say, hey, I need to bring 5 Gatorades there. I need to bring 5 bags of chips here. And basically what ends up happening is they're going with the products that they need, not what they're guessing. So that's that. Could you elaborate, Jeff, on financing and what we are able to do for folks that are looking into this business and what those deals usually look like?
I know Beau's a big SBA guy, and we do a lot of SBA loans. We love working with the SBA. We've been doing it for years. They love us because we have a great track record with them. But some people do SBAs. They do home equity line of credit. A lot of people do 401k. There's a program called ROBS where you can access your retirement funds without any penalties or any interest. So we have a great, Brooke Pace is our director of financing, and she just helps everybody along the way with any type of financing that they're looking for.
Yeah, with SBA financing, you finance up to 90% of the total project cost, and you can build in working capital too to launch the business. So a lot of people do that. If some people pay cash, but it is eligible for SBA financing, which is the majority of what I see is people want to take advantage of SBA financing because it's great. You can get in with a little bit down. You can build in working capital to get the business launched, and it works really well. So, and it's very fast too. I find it takes 3 to 4 weeks tops to get these deals done. Not like most people think how long it's going to take an SBA deal to get done. So it's a good process.
But I think we have a little bit of time for a couple extra questions. Who's paying for the wireless connection?
That's a monthly fee that the Smart Mart owner pays for. It's a cell signal, so you're not hooking into a company's Wi-Fi. You're not messing with their network at all. It's actually got a modem in it that works with AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. So it's constantly looking for the strongest signal, and so we never have any issues. AT&T network could completely go down, and there'd be no problem. The Smart Mart would continue to work.
That's right.
What about scaling the business? Let's just say you invested in an initial 10 and it's like, what's a good cadence? Like year 2, you looked at like, what do you see like the operators really getting comfortable doing? Are they doing like 2 to 4 machines every 6 months? Is that the cadence to get to like 20 or 30 machines, which then, gives them where they feel they might be able to transition out of their W-2? Or do some people just go in heavy in the beginning and buy more than 10 machines, 20 or 30 machines? What does that look like?
Beau, we've seen everything you can possibly imagine. They can start with 10, 15, or 20. We had a person in Texas who said, gee, I'm just going to start with 10 and make sure this is going to work well for me. 3 weeks later, they ordered another 10. They're about to order another 10. They're about 4 months into the business. We have an operator who years ago, back with our old healthy vending machine, started with 10 and scaled 2 or 3 at a time, got up to 240 machines. He's now switching over to these new Smart Mart. So some people are going to scale quickly. Some are going to scale at at a slower rate. That's the great thing about this is our coaches are going to work with each person to kind of help them and customize a growth plan that works for them.
Yeah, so that's why I love this business. It could be a I hate using the word side hustle, but it can be a business you run with your W-2, because a lot of as I help people get into different franchises, as you know, there's a lot more, Rick knows, there's a lot more moving parts running a full operating business with employees, staff, and all that kind of stuff. This is, I find, to be like, a lot of the people that would normally get concerned about running a business go, oh, I understand vending and I'm not ready to quit my job. And it's just a natural fit. And that's why I think the beauty of it is that there's operators that grow this into hundreds of machines if you really wanted to. And eventually you could have gig workers that go fill the machines and stock the machines. And people build it where they have a warehouse because they're so big with this business. That's what's really, I find, exciting.
One of the things you mentioned earlier, Beau, and I just wanted to touch on it is, doing it as a family business. All of my kids grew up stocking vending machines. It was a great experience. We just had someone at our Smart Mart University training saying, can my 5-year-old help me in this business? And I said, yes, your 5-year-old can help you stock the machine. It's going to take you longer when you go to stock it. But what value of that time, he spends the time with his son. His son is learning, even at age 5, what it's like to run a business. And nowadays, the 14-year-old can run Smart Sync software faster than mom or dad can. So there's a great opportunity for kids to do this as a part of a family business. A lot of families get a couple of these for their kids when they're away at college. They want them to focus on their academics, but they want them to earn some money. And rather than working for Starbucks till 2 a.m. before a big exam, they stock their machines around their school schedule. So it's a great fit for that too.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much. I know I think it's your niece is having a baby right now, so we'll let you go do that. Rick and Jeff, thank you so much for joining. And once more, Bill, if you put the link so we can put their name, if you have interest, put your name, email, zip code, we will get back to you right away. And we can dive in. I'm sure you have lots of questions on the vending industry. The team can really help you answer all those questions. Talk to operators so you can ask other questions about earnings and things like that. But they take you through a very nice process so you can see if it's a good fit or not. And essentially, you're going to come up with more questions as you go. So that would be my next advice. Look at it, figure out, see if it's a good fit. And that's basically the process I would recommend everybody do, because everybody should own a small business. That's why you're here. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks, Beau.
Thanks, Beau. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Russ, if you're there and you're available, we could actually bring you on stage earlier. I don't know if you're there, Russ, but
yeah, I'm
there
here, Beau, brother. Good to see
I know it's a Saturday, and I figured, I want to get you on because you bring a lot of energy. Anyways, guys, we're going to go straight into another presentation. This is a franchise business model that is the only franchise that specializes in commercial painting. I helped a gentleman that I heard me on Michael Zuber's podcast, and I helped him get into 2 territories in Florida. And he evaluated a lot of different business models, and he fell in love with Go Painting. And Russ is going to take us through the business model. Because, guys, it's all about learning about a business model, figuring out what business model makes the most sense for you. So without further ado, Russ, thank you for joining us to talk about Go Painting.
Awesome. Thank you, Beau. I appreciate you having me on today, and excited to talk to everybody. Can y'all see my screen? Is that good?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Outstanding. Good. Well, like Beau said, the big thing about Go Painting is the fact that we're the only all commercial, all the time painting franchise in existence. And that really is interesting. When I first learned about Go a couple of years ago, I was not excited to be a part of the brand, quite honestly, because I thought, well, it's just what the world needs, another painting franchise. But once I actually started learning about this business, once I went out and met the founders of this company and saw what they had done, it was very easy for me to jump on board and want to be a part of the growth of this company. Because when you get into the commercial sector, y'all, it's an entirely different business. It really is. When you talk to other painting franchises, all of them will say they do commercial work, and they do all do commercial work to a certain extent. but every single one of them was built around a single family model. So that's what their processes are set up for. That's what their customer service systems are set up for. Their marketing, their training, their estimating, everything is built around a single family home. Getting into the commercial space, there's a lot more moving parts. There's a lot more complexity because you're taking on larger jobs, and those companies just aren't built for it. Go Painting, these three guys that started the business have been in the painting space for 20 years commercially. They were in residential painting prior to getting into this area. And they said, you know what? We don't want to do that. We don't want to mess with the emotional aspects of the sale. We don't want to have to go out and throw ourselves in a pool where it's kind of a race to the bottom as far as what you can do. We really want to elevate ourselves and focus more on customer service and being able to produce the best possible relationships within the customer service sector that we can. And that's how Go Painting was kind of born. So very, very unique opportunity. A couple of things about the brand. When you look at commercial, I mean, number one, when I explain the Go Painting model to people, I like them to think of it as a less is more kind of a mentality. Number one, because you are making a lot more money per job on job averages, you can actually do fewer jobs and create a larger income. When you look at residential painting, and again, we're talking primarily exterior here, y'all. That's a large amount of what we do is exterior. If you're doing residential painting, nationwide averages for a 2,500 to 3,000 square foot home is probably around $4 or $5 grand is typically what it's going to cost to have a house painted. Our nationwide average, as far as just the commercial jobs we're doing, is $30,000. So just right there, you're tapping into a much higher income potential. Very, very high-end residential homes, you might be able to get $15,000, maybe even $20,000 for those homes. Very high commercial, we're talking about $400,000, $800,000. Our largest single job last year was $900,000 that one of our owners was able to land. So when I explain this to people that are really looking to build a large business, I say, you're thinking about $1 million income, how many single family homes do you have to paint? How many of those jobs do you have to go after versus being able to land some of these large contracts? Yes, it is a slightly longer sales process, absolutely. But again, to land one $200,000 job after 2 to 3 months versus how many single family homes you have to take going out there and hustling and knocking doors every day, this is much better suited for that type of a business. Also, customers. That is the biggest thing with us. When you're looking at residential, again, you're working with homeowners. So the economy, the tariffs, all these other things directly affect their decision on whether or not I'm going to have this service performed, because I don't know, maybe I can wait for 2 or 3 years to paint my house. In most cases, you can. If you're like me, you got 2 teenage boys that sit around playing video games, I'll pay them to get off the couch and paint my house before I'll go out and paint somebody else. When you're dealing with commercial, specifically management companies, apartment management companies, HOA management companies, property management companies, these are individuals that are not tied to the money. It's their job to find the best contractor to produce this work the most effectively and efficiently, but it's not their money. So there's no emotion tied to it. Also, if you're looking at multifamily, which is a huge piece of what we do, you've got these reserve studies that are in place that say this property was painted 7 years ago. That means in the next 3 years, it's going to have to be painted again, regardless. So they literally have money that's being put into an account every month to have that done when it comes time. So even in a down economy, it's secured income that's you're going to be able to work and you're going to be able to grow. And that's why our legacy locations during COVID had record sales. This business just continues to rise. Okay. So from a business perspective, you're doing fewer jobs, you're making more money. You're able to spend more time working with and developing relationships with fewer customers that can send you a lot more work. I mean, you deal with a property management company, they're going to have projects, office space, restaurants, hotels, gas stations, you name it. They've got projects that need the services of a commercial painter multiple times a year and year after year after year. So once they realize what you can do for them, they want to continue to work with you and help you to generate and build your business. The big thing that we do is we focus on the customer experience, which is in this industry, it's highly fragmented, a lot of independent painters that are great at painting. They're not so great at accountability, at follow-up, at communication, at technology. That's what Go Painting is focused on. All of those other things that we know our competitors are just not that great at, we absolutely excel at. At the end of the day, we can absolutely produce this job as well as they can, But again, we're partnering with customers, and because our customers are employees themselves, we're making their jobs easier. So very, very unique business model. From an ownership standpoint, there's nothing out there like it that I've ever seen. I've been in franchising for over 20 years. I've worked with a lot of different businesses and a lot of different industries, and I've never seen a business that has this much income potential with this low of actual capital expenses or moving parts. We use very simple labor model. We're using subcontractors to produce the jobs. We're going to help our owners find those subcontractors to be able to bring in the right painters to be able to produce and deliver the expectation that our customers work with. Our subcontractors are professional painters themselves, so they're bringing all the equipment to the job site with them. So we have very little expenses when it comes to debt servicing these large costs to be able to get into business. Unlike a lot of other very simple models, like I think about exterior cleaning or window cleaning, even with that, you have to go out and you have to buy a lot of equipment before you can ever really start making money. We just don't have that. Our owners are able to go out immediately, start marketing, start selling, start winning jobs, and then they're going to have the subs to come in and take care of them without breaking the bank to try to make that happen. We also don't have any physical location requirements. You don't have a lease that you need to do this. Our owner in Phoenix got his business to about $4.5 million before he went out and decided he needed to get a little 8x10 storage shed, just because he had a bunch of ladders that had been left on site, and his wife got irritated with him for leaving them in the garage. So when it comes to work-life balance, being able to be at home, develop, I mean, you're just going to be hard pressed to find a franchise that has more opportunity than this. When you look at franchising, and I know, Beau, you've probably heard this 1,000 times because I've heard it 1,000 times, inevitably somebody will always say, why wouldn't I just do this on my own? And you could. I mean, honestly, I feel like any business, if you have enough time and money, you can go out there and start it on your own and build it and develop it. The thing of it is, most people don't have a lot of time or money. And so tapping into a franchise system, an already proven recreatable system, just helps them to get there more quickly. But I always point out the top line here. If Beau's going to go out and start Beau's Painting Incorporated, if he's going to produce $1 million, he's going to spend on average about $150,000 more just buying paint than he's going to spend with a Go Painting. The buying power that we're bringing to the table, specifically with Sherwin-Williams across the country, is absolutely phenomenal. And we can almost justify the entire cost of the franchise just in the first $1 million of production that's out there because of the paint you're buying. So that's really the reason that I point out to folks why they wouldn't want to go out there and do this on their own, is they're going to be able to buy their paint more effectively, thereby giving them better margins, thereby giving them better opportunity to win the bids when it comes to just apples to apples comparisons with other people. The marketing, again, we are a very unique company when it comes to the space. A lot of our competitors out there are independently owned. They're not getting out there in front of their customers on a regular basis. They're not actively sponsoring events. They're not actively showing up where their customers are. That's what we want our owners to be able to do. We're going to put you on stage, but it's up to you to get out there and connect with these customers one-on-one. One of my favorite stories is I've got an owner in Omaha, Nebraska, Kirsten Bros. This woman is in her middle 40s, divorced mother of 4, 25 years in the healthcare space, got into Go Painting, just scared to death because she knew nothing about the space at all. But she trusted the brand. She had belief in the owners and the leadership, and really felt like this is where she needed to be. Her first ever event she did was the Apartment Manager Association of Nebraska. She went to an event they had in Omaha. There were over 300 apartment managers from all over the state of Nebraska. Kirsten was one of 2 painters that was actually physically at that event. She set up her booth. She handed out literally every piece of marketing collateral she had. That was 18 months ago. She told me she still gets calls weekly from apartment managers that attended that event that want and need her services. So just getting out there and doing the small things consistently makes an incredible difference when it comes to ramping up your business. And we're going to help you to do that. All the training that you need, I mean, we're going to be able to provide. To date, Go Painting has never brought anybody in that has any experience at all in the commercial painting or painting space, or even construction for that matter. So we are training them on every aspect of this business, soup to nuts, to be able to get out there and really build a very successful commercial painting business in their community. The vehicle that you need, that's really the only equipment. If you've already got a truck that's 5 years old or newer, send me pictures of it and we'll see if we can get it approved, as long as you're willing to wrap it. If not, this is the equipment that you need for your company. A lot of our owners just lease this vehicle, then you're going to wrap it, so it doesn't matter what color it is. But this is really a rolling billboard for your business. And so it's a great looking truck. It really pops when it's out there driving around on the interstates and highways. As far as the industry goes, again, y'all, I put this slide together just to kind of show the validity in what we do. Very large accounts, very large projects are out there in this space. Also, we primarily focus on repainting, okay? We don't do new construction. That's a big reason we're able to have such great margins and maintain those margins is we don't have a lot of moving parts. We're going in, we're painting. When we do these large projects, they are big ticket averages. The systems and processes we have in place really provide very little disruption to the residents or the tenants, which is different than our competitors that don't understand how to go in and work around folks. We do. Residential, when we talk about residential, again, multifamily apartments, multifamily HOAs, condominiums, duplexes, shared wall spaces. Commercial, when these projects are first built, new construction painters are painting them. When it comes time to repaint, there's a lot more moving parts. There's more logistics. That's when Go is going to be called in to come in and service these needs. So a lot of opportunity out there when you start looking around at all these things that were built 8, 10, 12 years ago that are getting to the point where the paint's starting to fade. There is a tremendous amount of opportunity in every market to be able to come in and fill that need. That's kind of what I had today, Beau, as far as the presentation.
That was excellent. That was excellent. This is, like I said, this is a brand I love. I mean, you can see why. Russ, talk to us about who makes a good franchise candidate in your idea for this brand. Tell them what attributes we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, people that are really relationship builders are what makes great owners. People that are outgoing, that are charismatic, that truly want to get to know people and solve their problems. That's a big thing about what we're doing is we are a solution to our customers' problems. The problems that they're having is inconsistency in this space. They're hiring these contractors and then they're having to chase them throughout the entire project. They don't like doing that. When we come in, we want our customers to know, hey, we're right here. The technology that we have is going to give them immediate access to know exactly what's going on in real time. So we're looking for folks that just truly enjoy working with and connecting with people. This is not a business, Beau, where you just put, do some pay-per-click advertising and wait for your phone to ring, because if somebody's looking to have a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 job done, they're not taking to Google to find that contractor. They're going into their network, which we're going to be a part of.
I love that. Bill, I can't see the Q&As. Is there any questions on the brand in particular? And also, Bill, would you put in, we created a link. If you're interested in this business model, fill that little link out. We'll get back to you. We got to make sure there's available territory, because when you look to invest in a franchise, right, you look at territories, and you might look at 1 or 2 units, or some people buy 3 units. And this is an emerging brand. So when it's an emerging brand, that means there's still a lot of white space. There's still a lot of availability. So it's good time to get in and mark your territory. When you're evaluating franchises, you go through a long discovery process where you get to speak to operators over time. You review a franchise disclosure document. It's a process. It's not tomorrow you wake up and you sign the documents, you go and you do a big learning process. And we help you take you through that process so you can figure out if Go Painting's the right fit for you, right? And we hold your hand, and Russ does a great job. He's been in this industry for a long time. But yeah, if you have the right attributes, I think this is a beautiful business model. I like the subcontractor. I can run it from my home. I like the low startup and the low overhead, and the margins of this business are very attractive. So I would say if you have those relationship building skills, this is a perfect business. Could be a perfect business. There's no such thing as perfect business. Could be a perfect business for you. But this is a full-time job, This is a full-time business, meaning you can't just hire somebody to run it for you. They want full-time operators. I think over a couple-year period, you could build infrastructure. Their corporate office is right here where I'm sitting. Not exactly, but it's in here in Las Vegas. That's where their flagship started, and that crushes it here all over. I mean, big numbers on that business.
Big numbers on this business, Beau, and I'll add to that. This really is a lifestyle business. I mean, truly, a lot of people, when they get into a business of any kind, they don't want to be chained to it. I hear, and I'm sure you hear all the time, I don't want to buy a job. And this business affords you the opportunity to create whatever sort of a lifestyle you want, because there are no emergency paintings. You get some of these other companies that are restoration industries, for example, where you can make a lot of money, but you're also having to run out and do a job at 2:00 in the morning or on Christmas Eve or on Sunday morning. With this, it's a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you're available when your customers are available to connect with them. Your subcontractors are working nights and weekends, but that's what they need to do when they say, here's what I can do the job for. So this really is a lifestyle. I had one of my first owners that came in. They've been with us for a little over 12 months now. They just took their family to Hawaii for spring break, and they just, you know what, we're not going to produce jobs this week. So because they don't have employees, because they don't have a lot ongoing costs, they can do that. When it comes to scheduling, they just say, oh, this is the week I'm not scheduling anything. Their customers don't know that. So it's not like a brick and mortar where you go in and pull on the door and it's closed. And then they're like, oh man, I'm not coming back here. So it really is truly, it checks a lot of boxes for a lot of.
Let me add this part in, and then I'll let Michael Zuber ask any questions he might have if he has any on this. But this is, and I'll let Russ correct me if I'm wrong. But so you can start this business by yourself, not by yourself because you got the Go Painting team and your coaches, but by yourself as far as employee count. And then over time, I would imagine, Russ, that you're going to grow this business by potentially hiring to your weakness. So if you're a good the biz dev guy like I am, I'm going to do that. Then I hire an ops person. And then the next person maybe is an admin, or maybe I hire another account executive that goes out and does more business development. So you don't need a huge team to grow this business. What is that? Is that kind of how you?
That's exactly the way it is, Beau. The way this works, and I get that question a lot, is, well, how do I manage quality when I'm using subcontractors? Okay. And that's the thing of it. In the beginning, as you're developing in this business, you're doing everything. You're going out there, your sales, your marketing, you're developing relationships. As you're getting these RFPs, these requests for proposals, you're putting in estimates. And so that's really what you're doing the first 2 to 3 months. Once you start winning these estimates, now you have to switch gears and you got to be there on the job for the first, depending on the size of the job, the first 2 to 3 days, just to make sure your subcontractors are lined out correctly. Because again, even though they're subcontractors, they're working through you. So you show up, you make sure, like on this picture, everybody's got the Go Painting shirts on, you've got all the signage out, and then you are managing that process accordingly throughout the project. As you're ramping up, you can easily wear both of those hats because you're not doing 30 jobs a week, right? But there's going to reach a point where, and typically it's been income. When our owners get to about 800,000, that first 12, 13, 14 months, that's when they're starting to hire that individual that's either going to be sales and marketing or they're going to be a production specialist. And I tell you what, when they unlock that door and they bring that individual in, that's when we're seeing absolutely incredible growth, because now that owner can focus on what they want to and enjoy doing. So, yeah.
I love it. Michael, do you have any questions?
It's kind of the same lens. When I look at this particular opportunity, it's who is the avatar? Is it somebody that has some sales experience and maybe is used to having a quota and getting a lot of no's and just grinding, or is it an operator? Somebody with an operations background? Obviously, both roles that you just highlighted are better when you kind of hire your weakness.
Yeah.
But who are you looking for that first step?
It's so interesting, Michael, because I think with any of my owners, none of them would have considered themselves a salesperson coming in per se. Like, I consider myself a salesperson, but none of them would have really considered themselves as a heavy sales individuals. I would say they're primarily production folks that come in. They're used to managing crews. They're used to multiple things going on simultaneously. And again, I go back to that, to help people. They want, like Kirsten in Omaha, I just love her to death because she's such a good story. She is the type of person that just really wants to help everybody. And when she goes in to do an estimate, that kind of pours out of her to her client, and they feel like this is a real person that's going to come in here and take care of the problem for me. And so hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
but I would say this isn't something for introverted individuals. My wife is a bookkeeper and an accountant. She would not do well in this type of business because she just doesn't like to walk in and confidently say, hey, here's what I can do for you. You got to have that kind of swagger to be able to do that.
Love that. Okay.
All right, guys. So if you're interested, just go into that link and we'll schedule a call, and then I'll give you a little bit more information. We'll make sure it's available in your market. That's really the process. Russ, thank you so much.
Thank you, Beau. Pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's the weekend, and go enjoy. We're going to wrap up here shortly anyways. Thanks, Russ. All right. So, guys, really, that was a great presentation. I really love Go Painting. I always look at through my lens of businesses that I I would be more inclined to do. I like vending for like what vending can do. But if I was looking for like a business that would be my build the machine, something like Go Painting is right in line for me, right? Like I look at it and I go, I could crush that business, but I would be going door to door. I'd be networking with these commercial property owners. And if you have that drive, this business really, I think, could be a great fit for you. We're going to wrap up shortly. I do have I'm going to do a very condensed SBA overview talk because I'm giving everybody a Kindle copy of How to Get SBA Financing to Buy Your First Business. Read every page of that book, and it'll answer all your questions. But you can always schedule a call with me. No, I figured I would do that for you guys that are here. We're going to give you a Kindle version. Bill will put the link in as well. And, kind of trying to wrap this up, and then we'll do closing remarks with both Zuber and I. The other thing I want to say is, look, when we present a business model, not everything is a perfect fit for everybody. I understand that. I like to bring ideas so you can look at different options. We actually, like Michael Zuber was talking about buy box, we do a similar thing in the business ownership space. And Bill and I just built something, and it's called Your Perfect Biz. I don't know if you could drop the link in there. The technology is still being tweaked, guys, but basically if you go to Your Perfect Biz and take that 50 or 60 second answer those questions, it will actually, with Beau's brain and our directory of business models, it will actually send you an email within, 4 or 5 minutes with a match of certain business models. Now, I want to preface this by, this is not like, hey, these are the only 5 businesses that make sense. It's really a rough start, but you got to start with looking at business. So you don't have to talk to anybody. It will do it automatically. If you guys want to do it after you get off, it takes you literally 60 seconds. We're still working on the technology behind that, but it's a good start, and I think it'll be fun for you. And then it will automatically encourage you to schedule a call with me. So if you want to talk about what the next steps are, plus I want you to use Your Perfect Biz to tell me how the experience was on version 2 and 2.0 and version 3.0. We can improve it. We have a lot of things we're doing with that. Anyway, but let me just do a quick segment, and then we'll do some closing remarks, and we'll be out of here because I know it's hard to sit still for 3.5 hours or whatever. SBA financing in a nutshell, in my opinion, I've done every sort of lending. I was a conventional mortgage broker when I was 20 years old. I've done fix and flips loans. I've done hard money bridge loans, done commercial loans. When I got into lending in the SBA space, I love it because a lot of these deals we can be very creative, and you could structure close to 100% financing. So on a business acquisition, you can borrow up to 90%. On a franchise startup, you can do 80 to 90%. When we looked at that vending biz, let's say your investment was your total project cost was $100,000. You only need 10% down. You need 10 grand down. So you can leverage into things. There's 2 main loan products, the SBA 7A, and that's like the Swiss Army knife. You don't need collateral necessarily. The SBA 504, you do need collateral. It's a real estate or heavy machinery type of loan. Just in a nutshell, this product can help somebody buying their first business, but it can also help somebody that maybe wants to take it to the next level. And I always talk about the gentleman who I helped buy a $10 million business with $300,000 out of pocket. And now that one move puts $4 million a year in him and his partner's pocket a year. One move. Now that's a grand slam. That's not, you're going to see that every day. But the point is, can you find an existing business, get 90% financing, get the seller to carry back 5%, and you close on that business with $50,000 out of pocket, and now you have a business that is with one move replaced your $150,000 or $200,000 salary? Absolutely. I see that day in and day out. And I guess that's the move, the power move that you can do. Now, finding that business sometimes is challenging. I'm not going to say it's easy, but the opportunities are there. Let's just do a hypothetical real quick. You invest in this vending opportunity. You now grow it, and you're like, look, I've got 80 machines. I need space. You can actually potentially get 100% financing with an SBA 7A after you have an established business to buy real estate, as long as you occupy 51% or more of the space. You can do that same thing for business roll-ups and buy business. You can, let's say you owned an HVAC business, franchise or not. You run it for 2 or 3 years. The competitor in the next town over is selling their HVAC business. You can get 100% financing to acquire that business. So if you're not getting in the game, and let's just say, hey, oh, I really came here for the real estate portion. That's fine, because there's certain businesses that have real estate, motels, RV parks, boat storages, marinas, anything you imagine. And let's just say, Beau, that's great, but I'm busy with my CPA practice. I've been running it for 5 years. Great. Let me ask you a question. Do you pay rent or lease as that business owner? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do what's called the rent replacement, and let's get you into a building. Now you own the real estate. Let's bring back our tax strategy. Now you can do cost segregations, all that kind of stuff. So that is why we're all here today in a nutshell. We do a lot of SBA workshops. I'll get on the call with you if you want to learn more about SBA. You can go to my YouTube channel. I don't have 18,000 like Mr. Zuber, but I have close to 3,000, and I'm tracking him. So we're here to support you, and that's my segment. Let's go into our closing remarks. Zuber, your takeaway. How could we improve this event in the future? Any thoughts there? Any closing remarks in general?
I'll let the audience talk about the event. I want to focus kind of where we started today. Again, the only way to get wealthy is to own assets. Own assets is the key to this. You got to know thyself, because not all things, not all businesses are right for you. You got to sit down, quiet. You got to own your truth, if you will. Again, I'll go back to the opening presentation from Phil. We're really talking about your personal landscape and where you're at and where do you want to go. I think you've got to really ask yourself, what do you want to do? One of the questions I answered was about Silicon Valley and real estate and lots of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's always that way. At some point, you're going to have to find your plan B, your path. As I've told you, getting wealthy takes 3 steps. It takes a decade. But the key to that is you got to get started. It's either day one or one day. One day I'll do something. Or you know what? Make today day one of your 10-year journey. It's your call. It's your choice. You're an adult. Make your own decision. But Beau, I still can't believe you created this idea over lunch. You are an action taker. You are certainly going to help 1 million people. So thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you. I really appreciate you joining and collaborating on these events. Guys, we're going to continue to do events. We have an event coming up April 4th, another business ownership summit. I highly encourage you to get plugged into Zuber's YouTube channel, his network. If you're real estate focused, definitely join his school network as well. I think there's 800 people in there. You gotta get plugged in. We're here for you in any way we can. And the community of ORAD is phenomenal. I've met so many good people there. So this is going to continue. We're always going to be here. We're going to practice what we preach, where we practice daily discipline. We practice everyday wealth building. And we hope that you guys start practicing those if you're not already. Bill, did I miss anything? Yeah, Bill?
Nope, you got it all.
All right, guys. So I'll try to get the replay out. Probably it's not going to be as quick, because Bill's luckily celebrating his 25th wedding anniversary in beautiful Hawaii. So we'll get it to you as soon as we can. And we will get you out an email with some of these links and a recap today. So maybe. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bill saying, see how I put him on the spot. That was I didn't think about that. But anyways, guys, thank Bill Davis, because he's the man that's always helped me for the last 13 years, put everything on, figure stuff out, and build the websites and do everything and, write the books. I mean, he's really the other side of my brain. He's like the really smart part that actually can figure out how this stuff all works. And I'm just an idea guy. So that's how you got to find, if you got the right pieces. That's how it all works. But thank you guys. I know some of you couldn't stick with 3 hours straight. I know it's painful to sit all day, but we're letting you out a few minutes early, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Later. Bye.
Bye-bye. I just got my keyboard's over there. All right, my teams. Thanks, Zuber. Talk to you soon.
Later.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Thanks, Bill.